Fluorescents trembled over marble like nervous lids. The air had that after-hours taste burnt coffee, chased by lemon cleaner that stung the nose and sat in the throat. Amara knelt at the wastebasket, gloves loose at the wrists, plastic whispering as she teased the liner free without letting it crackle. She moved small and competent, the way you do when being seen is trouble. Remove this black trash from my office. He didn't raise his voice. He let the marble floor do the amplifying. An Italian shoe nudged the bin. Papers slid and sighed across stone, a snowfall of invoices and glossy decks. He turned to his assistant and changed languages, a velveted cadence full of sharpened edges. The insult landed without volume. Filthy little pest. Monkey mother like a hand that never had to hurry. Amara kept her eyes on the floor. The gloves powdered her brown knuckles chalk white when she gathered the pages. She could smell the Americano someone had spilled sour, sticky along the edges and beneath it, the paper's heat. She heard the words that pretended to be casual. 30 days. Transfer. Remedies. She knew everyone. She'd learned them at a kitchen table with a cracked formica edge, earbuds pressed in. The glow of a borrowed phone reflected in her tea. The assistant chuckled in the same low language and said the English would never catch up. Above them, a fluorescent coughed and steadied. The light snagged on Omar's rings as his hand shot out and closed around her wrist. The pressure was practiced, polite enough to deny and firm enough to bruise. Tiny crescents of metal pressed into glove, into skin. You understand nothing, he said in a tourist-perfect English, the kind that buys cities one weekend at a time. Little animal. She looked up because you look up when someone says that. She didn't hold his gaze long, just long enough to measure the distance between times now, times and times later. Asterisk, then she bent, lifted one page by its wet corner, and slid it under the lip of the bin with a gentle twist that freed it whole. Down the hall, a copier coughed, paused, tried again. Ductwork sighhead. Somewhere an elevator sighed back. The building made the throat-clearing noises of a thing that never sleeps. Kesha's cart squeaked once at the turn and stopped dead when she saw the cut of the scene, her daughter frozen beside a scattered draft. The suited man stepping on pages as if they were rugs. Laughter that deliberately misunderstood a child. She stood still until the men disappeared into a glassy conference room and then crossed the marble with deliberate, quiet, head down. She breathed, close enough that only her child could hear. Finish. Move. He's going to steal it, Amada said, fogging the edge of a glass partition. With a small half-moon of breath, he said 30 days. He said 200 million. He said we are stupid. You don't speak that language. Kesha said, automatic as a seatbelt, and then she heard herself and hated the shape of it. I do. Not proud, not defensive, just a landing place for a fact. Mrs. Fatima. Videos. The hotline. I listen at night. Kesha's fingers stilled on the carton of copy paper. Lemon cleaner rode the air citrus and swallow hard panic. Say it to me, she asked. Softer. Say it how he said it. The words came out of Amara like water from a clean pipe. The Gulf vowels round. The lawyer words edged. She translated back lightly. Times temporary. Times that meant times until you can't stop me, asterisk. Asterisk transfer times with teeth. Asterisk remedies times with fists in their pockets. The number 200 million sat between them like a new person at the table. And Monday's too late, Kesha whispered. Hearing the kind of clock that makes rooms tilt, he said Monday's too late. Amara breathed in, out, and held the exhale just long enough to steady her voice. He said there's someone here on his side if it goes wrong. Here, Kesha repeated. The word tasted like cardboard and a decision. A delivery cart clattered past. A brief weather system. The hall fell empty again. The light flickered, decided to be brave, steadied. Amara watched it steady, and tucked that small miracle in her pocket the way kids fold up a coin to save for later. "We tell Mr. Harrison," she said. "Mr. Harrison won't listen," Keisha answered, meaning times men in rooms don't listen to women with mops asterisk. She stopped herself before she said times just asterisk. She pressed her lips together and let the word dissolve. "All right," she said, and the syllables felt like an oath. "We tell him." They took the long corridor that smelled like carpet glue and cologne. Brass letters spelled out a name that sat comfortably on the door. Inside, the light went warmer without getting kinder. Leather. Books that knew they were first editions. A decanter. Someone thought looked like power. David Harrison looked up with the alert stillness of a man who understood that some silences contained explosives. "Mrs. Williams," he said, and then saw the girl half hidden behind her mother's shoulder. "And my daughter," Kesha said. She stood as if a wind had pressed on her back, and she refused to bend. "We're sorry to intrude. We think it can't wait." He didn't reach for platitudes. He didn't reach for security. He gestured to chairs and listened while Kesha told it like a busted pipe. No adjectives. No embroidery. Water everywhere. When the story reached the part where language split and meanings swapped clothes, he tried the sentence. "The world asks you to try first. There must be a misunderstanding." Amara stepped forward a step and answered him in Arabic, that clean, gentle cadence like seawater on a warm rock. She spoke the phrase, "times transfer of primary authority asterisk." Then she said it in English as if flipping a pane. She did not perform. She transmitted. David went very still for one beat. Then he turned a stack of pages toward her with an index finger and found, without looking, a pen that wrote in blue. "Show me," he said. She leaned onto her toes and read. The ink smelled faintly like warm machines, the clauses braided like hair. "Here," asterisk temporary times wasn't. "Here," a number hid behind polite words. "Here," asterisk remedies times wore a smile with molars. She pointed with the air over her finger, never touching the page. Outside the window, rain stitched silver along high glass. In it, David saw his own face go through something younger, older, and then not about him at all. He set the pen down, something between surrender and gear shift. He looked at Kesha and saw a person he'd walked past 100 times, the way people walk past light switches. "How did you learn?" he asked. "Because times was too big." "Phone," Amada said. "Aunties. News. I listen while I fold. I repeat until the word fits." She reached into her backpack and pulled a cheap tablet with a cracked corner, opened a drawing app to a half-finished stained glass butterfly. In the bottom corner she made 3 dots with the stylus, small as fleas. "Red, blue, green. You can signal if you need." David exhaled once, shifted into a kind of leadership that smelled like procedure, not speeches. He pressed a button on the desk phone. "Priya. Recorder. Chain of custody. Interpreter on standby. Marcus to my office." Priya came with a black pelican case and a mind that kept lists like hymns. She put a matte recorder under the sideboard lip, checked the time against a little tick-tick box, and then against her phone. "NIST trace." She murmured half to the paperwork, half to the air. She laid out a form whose boxes wanted names and times. "One-party consent," she said to Kesha, tapping the line for signature. "Press here. Say your name. Say the hour." Marcus filled the doorway like a living hinge. He took everything in case. Kid. Mother's shoulders and nodded once. We'll run the hall cameras, he said. Don't worry about them. Worry about the truth. Ms. Ayad arrived with librarian gravity, cardigan pilled at both elbows and eyes that measured everything without touching it. I'll read the Arabic, she said. I'll be dull and clean. Kesha signed. The ink looked bright on white, honest and exposed. Priya snapped the seal on a clear bag, the red stripe like a small artery. When we're done, we don't have times it. The court has it, she said. If someone tries to play with time, the time bites back. They moved like a pit crew down a hallway that pretended to be a gallery-framed art that wanted to be owned. A carpet thicker than courtesy. At the conference room doors, David paused, sleeves rolled to his forearms. We walk in like she's here with her mother, he told Keisha, a quiet plan in a quiet voice. We walk out with what we need. Amara settled on the rug by the credenza tablet on her knees. She finished the butterfly's left wing in strokes that kept her hands from shaking. In the corner, the red, blue, and green dots waited. She added a fourth dot in a gray, so soft it looked like weather. She didn't name it. Not yet. The glass door sighed open. Wool. Watches. A laugh with a private jet in it. Omar entered and brought the temperature down by a degree. He didn't look at the girl because a man like that doesn't train his eyes to see children in rooms with tables this glossy. Gentlemen, David said, standing long enough to count as polite, short enough to count as ready. We can be efficient. Of course, Omar said, in English, that could sell anything to anyone who liked their meanings lacquered. He set a leather folio down with a placement that had been practiced in 3 capitals. English first tidy, generous words that looked good on decks. Partner, oversight, mutual. Then the seam unzipped, and the river changed languages. The vowels rounded, the consonants turned to smoke. 30 became a joke. Transfer tasted like metal. Penalties clicked onto good china. Amara tapped blue. David's phone buzzed silent. He didn't look down. Section 73, he said when there was a lull. Let's make sure we're calling the same moon the moon. It is conventional, Omar's assistant said, with a smile that had been to charm school. Read it. David told the interpreter. Upon the passage of 30 days, primary authority shall be deemed transferred. Ayad translated, clean as a bell. Placeholder. The assistant said smoothly, not in this house. Foster said, not bothering to mutter. And the penalties, David added as if he were merely curious about the price of a sandwich. Ayad ran a finger down the Arabic and grew very careful. Liquidated damages. 200 million. She said, antiseptic as a swab. Somewhere in the building, a copier found its rhythm. The fluorescent above them steadied, as if it had decided to root for the home team. They tightened the language on paper, because sometimes paper tells fewer lies. Priya clicked the recorder off and on around breaks like a metronome. Marcus became a piece of furniture that made the door heavier. Kesha stood with her palms on the back of a chair, a posture that had never been taught to her and still looked like command. When Omar finally leaned toward the child on his way out, voice pitched high enough to be a test, Arabic folded like a question. Asterisk. Do you like coloring? Asterisk. Amara shaded one pane darker and answered in the same language. Without looking up, asterisk. That depends on what's screaming. He smiled the way men smile when they think a child has memorized a line someone fed her. He left. Air came back like a tide. Priya slid the recorder into a bag and sealed it with the calm of someone tucking in a small animal. Chain intact, she said, writing the time. And her initials like anchors, we walk it to the vault. In David's office, the quiet changed key. Not the hush of fear, the hush of steps counted before a dash. Why us? Keisha asked. Not for pity, for inventory. Because you were there, David said. Because you heard what I didn't. Because people think brooms don't have eyes. Amara touched the chalk-white crescent glove print her mother had left on her shoulder and felt the skin warm under it. She looked at her butterfly. The left wing glowed. The right wing waited. Ready? David asked. Yes. Kesha said. Yes. Amara echoed. They stepped into the hallway that led to the room where, in a different language, a man believed nobody could hear him. The building hummed. The fluorescent didn't flicker this time. It held, and the light, for once, felt like it belonged to them. The conference room breathed like a refrigerated lung, glass walls on two sides, blinds half drawn, so the city's lights cut the table into gray slats. A water carafe sweated onto a leather coaster. Peppermint rode behind Toner. Priya set the pelican case on the credenza and opened it with both thumbs. Hinges sighed like a stage curtain. NIST clock synced. She murmured for the form, tucking the recorder beneath the lip of the sideboard. On your nod. Mrs. Williams. Kesha squared her shoulders. Priya nodded. Kesha pressed the button and spoke into the air as if air could be a witness. Keisha Williams. 8:06 p.m. The red eye steadied into a patient glow. Marcus drifted to the door with a hinge as calm. Foster slid mid-table, uncapped a pen like a small blade. David took the end seat with his back to glass, so no one could come up behind him. Amara found the floor by the credenza's shadow, tablet on her knees. The butterfly-weighted left wing filled in panes of purple glass, right wing skeletal, lead lines thin as veins. In the corner, 3 dots waited. Red, blue, green. The gray one she'd added held its breath. They arrived in wool and hush. Omar first, crisp as a line drawn with a ruler. His assistant a step behind, clipboard ready to make anything sound reasonable. 2 associates in slipstream, screens under arms, eyes hungry for outlets. The interpreter, Ms. Ayad, took a spare chair with librarian gravity and a pencil tucked behind her ear. Gentlemen, David said, standing long enough to count, let's be efficient. Efficiency is the soul of business, Omar said, mouth smiling, hands arranging a leather folio in practiced choreography. English came first. Clean words wearing. Good shoes partner. Mutual. Oversight. Abreuture cadence. Then the seam unzipped. His voice dropped a notch. Vowels rounded. Consonants turned to smoke. In the other language, asterisk. 30 times became a joke. Told to insiders. Asterisk. Transfer times. Acquired teeth. Asterisk. Remedies times picked up a hammer. Amara's stylus tapped blue. David didn't look down at the buzz in his pocket. He leaned back as if the chair were suddenly comfortable. 73. He said mildly, let's make sure the stopwatch isn't running when everyone thinks it's a calendar. Omar's assistant laughed softly. A placeholder, he said in English. Industry standard. Read it, David told Ayad. She did. Arabic to English, as if turning a pane of glass. Upon the passage of 30 days, primary authority shall be deemed transferred to the partner. See, the assistant said, standard, not in this zip code. Foster said without raising her eyes, pen scoring a margin. Amara drew a small clock in one butterfly pane, crossed out a 6, and wrote 30 with a neat wrist. Blue again. About penalties, David added, like a man inquiring about condiments. Ayad's finger post. Liquidated damage. She translated carefully. 200 million. The assistant's blink was a shade late enough. Amara touched red. The stylus made a tiny click, audible only to her. 200 million is generous, Omar said with velveted cheer. It is a guardrail. Guardrails are useful when the road is honest, Priya said under her breath, almost to the recorder, almost to herself. They moved to paper because sometimes paper is stubborn in ways people aren't. The English draft came out, clean and unambiguous. The Arabic lay beside it like a double exposure. Foster slid a red pen across to opposing counsel. Mirror the English, she said. Remove 73C. Neutral venue. Plain penalties. If any. No secret return address. Omar smiled like a man humoring a child at a museum. We can initial guardrails, he said. A gesture, not a gesture, David said. A structure. He asked for a recess before signatures touched ink. Marcus opened the door with a fingertip and boredom. The hallway smelled of carpet glue and rain warming on stone. They stood in a pocket of HVAC hiss and distant elevator bell. Priya reached under the sideboard without looking. Clicked the recorder off. Read the counter. Wrote the number on a form with neat aggression. She slid the device into a clear bag. Pressed the seal with both thumbs until the red line bit chain intact. She said to the air that would be asked later. At the poster that told associates to log their time contemporaneously. Bryce waited like a man who'd just discovered the flashlight in his phone. His tie was a little off, his eyes too awake. They told me to clean up. The translation, he said, voice pitched low. Footnotes in Arabic that pretend to be housekeeping, but they're not. Cross-refs that hop to definitions that don't define. A venue clause with a trick word. Who sent the instruction? Foster asked, not moving her pen. Bryce swallowed. See? He stopped, swallowed again. Senior, look. I'm done after this. You're not done, David said. You're useful. Sit tight. Write nothing you'll hate in Discovery. Marcus peeled away for the restroom with the gait of a man who needed only a mirror. Inside, the assistant stood in a stall with his phone face up. Thumb moving too fast to be texts to a spouse. Marcus propped the door with a wedge shaped like a shoe, ran the faucet, told a loud, boring story to an associate at the sink about a game he hadn't watched. The stall's occupant adjusted his timeline. Deletion attempt failed. The building's network management noticed a new friend and recorded it back in the cold lung. Signatures happened. Omar signed the margins with a flourish that wanted to be photographed. The assistant's eyes tracked the pen, not the clause. Ayad read each Arabic line aloud with a nurse's patience. Kesha pressed the button, named the time. The little red eye reversed its wink. The pen's nib made a small scratching sound that felt like accountability. Priya bagged the second segment and sealed it. Initials tight as wire. Special Master's Office, she said. Now, the elevator hummed. The small office had been turned into a temple to procedure anti-static mats, rolling shelves, evidence bags waiting like open mouths. The woman in charge had a pencil behind her ear and a ledger that could anchor a boat. She took the recorder like an egg, read the seal number, wrote it into the book with slow confidence. We'll hash, she said. We'll mirror to worm. You'll get a receipt. If anyone tries to make time disappear, it will reappear here with dates and a bad attitude. Thank you, David said, and meant it like a man means oxygen. Go do the fun part, she said. What's the fun part? Kesha asked, tired, but on her feet. Being right in public, the master said, and stamped the form with a thump that sounded larger than its size. On the walk back up, the soda machine hummed behind plastic blue. An aquarium of sugar. Amara pressed her palm to the cool glass, left an oval of fog, drew a single line through it with the tip of a nail, and let it vanish. She felt the weight of the tablet in her backpack like a tool and a secret. The second round moved faster, because fear had learned their names. Omar tried charm harder. He asked for efficiencies that smelled like shortcuts. He suggested a venue more experienced in international matters, said with the coastal shrug of a man who calls cities by their airports. Neutral venue with a judge who likes mornings, David said, not buying the flight. Omar switched back to the other language and let annoyance sharpen the vowels. Asterisk. Move signature now. If they press, delay becomes engine. Asterisk. The assistant's mouth said, times, of course, asterisk. Amara tapped blue. The butterfly's right wing got one more pane of color. Her hand, steadying. Let's initial. Omar said brightly, we all have lives. Exactly why we initial, Foster said, sliding the paper to him. He hesitated a hair and covered it with grace. He signed, the assistant signed, David and Foster made their marks in careful strokes, then handed the page to Priya, who took it with fingers that read serial numbers as prayers. In the doorway, Omar slowed. Remembering he owed charm to furniture, he leaned toward the girl. Do you like rainbows? He asked in English, pitched for children. She shaded a square. Depends who's standing under them, she said. He let a syllable of Arabic slip. A test. A needle. Asterisk. Quiet is good for your kind. Her hand didn't stop. Asterisk. Not when the quiet is what's screaming. Asterisk. She answered in the same tongue, so soft he could pretend he'd misheard. He smiled without changing his eyes, and left. The door clicked. People exhaled. Priya knelt, clicked, stopped. Read the counter. Wrote it. The chain of custody form took ink like a lung. Takes breath. The seal bit. Vault, she said. And Kesha tucked the bag into the hard case like a fragile heart. They angled toward the municipal building across the plaza, fluorescent earnestness. Folding chairs. Posters that promised parks in blues and greens. Somebody's cousin had chosen. A banner read, asterisk, asterisk, Housing Authority Public Session. Asterisk, asterisk in letters that wanted to be trusted. The coffee hissed from cardboard urns. It tasted like ambition. Losing, they took the second row again. The chair banged a gavel that sounded like plastic. Item 3, land parcels. Item 4, contracts. The agenda pretended order was neutral. The room knew better. Public comment was a parade of the city's actual spine. A grandmother in a rain bonnet. A coach with forearms like old wood. A nurse in scrubs. Sneakers splaying from miles. Each said their name like a claim, packed a life's argument into 2 minutes, and obeyed the red light with a swallow that hurt. A consultant for the developer smiled a slide deck smile. Our polling indicates overwhelming support, she said. We have letters from community stakeholders, faith, small business, youth reflecting enthusiasm. Receive provisionally, Priya called, standing just enough to be a noun, subject to verification of payments, routed through a ledger labeled times Maha asterisk. She held up a printout like a revivalist with a hymn. The clerk took the letters with 2 hands and set them aside as if they hummed. When the board hit item 4, the room changed temperature. The city attorney arrived like someone slipping into a trench. The chair lifted the Arabic draft with 2 fingers, as if it might bite. Interpretation, she asked. Ayad stepped to a side mic. She read Arabic, then English, the words falling into place with quiet inevitability. Upon the passage of 30 days, primary authority shall be deemed transferred. She translated. A thin hiss slid through the back of the room. Not anger yet. Preparation. Is that in the English? The chair asked, eyes tracking to David. No, Foster answered, keeping her body still. Our English says seasonal review. Their Arabic hides a stopwatch. Omar took the podium with his neutral face. We are flexible, he said. 30 is placeholder. We build home. Behind him, his assistant leaned close, assuming the municipal mic wasn't hungry. In Arabic, low, asterisk. Move what you can now. The judge is noise. The girl is noise. Asterisk. The sound carried enough to be caught by air. Amara didn't look up. She tapped blue. Then she stood, a small, steady thing, and spoke into the nearest mic without theater. He said, "Move the money now." She translated, "He called your judge noise. He called me noise." The room paused. Along deciding, the chair stared at Omar, at the city attorney, back at Omar. "We're in recess," she said. Gavel hitting wood with new weight. "Counsel with me." Security. 2 uniforms had already moved. Polite vectors to the side door. Omar didn't meet Amara's eyes when he left. He stepped around the truth, as if it were a puddle. Outside, the plaza smelled like wet concrete thinking about drying. Umbrellas opened like small arguments. Reporters glided toward faces that carried verbs. Marcus created a path with the art of boredom. Priya's phone buzzed. Asterisk, asterisk. Special master hash. Done. Worms stored. Deletion attempt detected. Not successful. Asterisk, asterisk. She showed David the screen. He allowed himself a thin smile that lived only at the corner. They didn't give interviews. They cut through a side street that smelled of bleach and fryer oil. A delivery van beeped backward into a slot like a scold. A kid balanced on a curb with arms out. A gymnast of ordinary things. In the window glass of a storefront, they saw their procession bent by angles. Lavier, mother, operator, child, reflected in stripes. Amara lifted her palm and fogged a small oval into that borrowed sky, drew a quick, invisible wing, and let it fade. Back at the elevators, the building hummed. The red light on the recorder slept under seal in the vault across the street. The butterfly in her tablet glowed. She colored the right wing 1 pane deeper and set the stylus down. "Tomorrow we do the boring part again," Priya said. "Boring wins." Marcus glanced at the blinds and at the street that fed the plaza. "Boring," and watched. He said. Amara touched the gray dot in the tablet's corner with one fingertip. It felt less like warning now and more like a price tag. She didn't name it. She didn't need to. The courthouse smelled like wet wool and old stone. Security trays rattled. Keys made brief metal laughter before the belt swallowed them. The well of the room held a chill that polished voices. Fluorescence laid an honest light across the council tables. No corners for shadows to bargain in. They took the second row close, not loud. David faced forward with his hands folded, posture of a man already building a bridge. Priya set the hard case on her knees, the red-sealed bag tucked inside like a warm heart. Kesha kept her palms together, thumbs, worrying an invisible thread, then stopping. Amara set her backpack down and watched the minute hand above the bench crawl like a steady insect. Opposing counsel rose when the clerk called the case. Polished shoes, tie the color of a reassuring brochure. "Your Honor," he began, smooth as pour-over, "we object to the admission of any clandestine recording." The judge lifted one finger. It was small, and it moved weather. "Stop there," she said, voice flat. "Mid-Atlantic worn to stone. One-party consent in this jurisdiction. Common space. Chain of custody." Priya stood, recorder time-synced to NIST traceable clock. She said, clear as a bell rung once, "We logged start and stop. Sealed immediately. Hashed at intake. The special master has a mirror image on Worm Media. Clerk has receipt numbers." "Good," the judge said. She didn't look back at opposing counsel. "Mr. Harrison." David rose without scrape. "We ask for an interim order mirroring the English draft," he said. "No hidden timed transfer. Strike Section 73, see penalties in the Arabic, neutral venu. Audit authority over affiliates. Opposing counsel tried to look insulted on behalf of paper. We signed nothing enforceable, he said. Collegial discussion. At most, Foster didn't get up. She just held the red-lined page high enough for the bench to see the wet ink of initials. The pen disagrees, she said. A bailiff crossed to the special master, who stood with the easy menace of someone whose tools are time and receipt tape. We hashed and mirrored last night. The master said, if anyone attempts to make time disappear, it will reappear here with dates and a bad attitude. The judge nodded once. Interim injunction granted, she said. Any execution inconsistent with the English is stayed. Defendant's devices to the special master for imaging. If I see so much as a wiped emoji post notice, we will have a separate hearing. You will not enjoy. Omar didn't flinch. His attorney lifted a shoulder in civilized surrender. At the defense table, an associate's pen tapped once, twice, then stilled like a guilty conscience, remembering church. On the witness issue, David added, voice light, knife sharp. There was contact we would characterize as improper. We'll submit affidavits under seal. I'll read them, the judge said, and I will jail anyone who breathes wrong in their direction. Back at 2 for status. Gavel. The room exhaled. They funneled down the corridor that smelled of toner and citrus. The special master's borrowed lab sat 3 floors below in a conference room, changed into a shrine. Anti-static mats, rolling carts, evidence bags with open mouths, cameras in the corners that blinked patient red, phones and a laptop already lay tagged in a neat row, passcodes in sealed envelopes. The master said, sliding 3 blanks across, write slow. Seal your own. Omar's assistant hesitated, hand hovering. A man who suddenly remembered privacy was a verb. He wrote, he sealed, he avoided everybody's eyes. The master logged each step into her ledger time. Date. Serial. Her pencil making a small saw sound. Hashing, she said, and the little screen filled with hexadecimal snow. A constellation no one could fake without being caught by the sky. Priya watched the numbers roll like a calm tide. Worm copy verified, she asked. Worm copy verified, the master echoed. She didn't smile, she stamped. When they came back up, the hallway had picked up a draft that tasted of rain, deciding. Bryce stood by the poster that begged Times, log your time, contemporaneously asterisk. Folder clamped to his ribs. His tie had lost faith. They told me to clean up the translation, he said. Voice pitched for the seam between doors, which meant not translation. A footnote in Arabic pretending to be housekeeping, a cross-ref to a definition that isn't. A venue clause with a trick word. You can swear that, Foster asked. He swallowed, nodded. I already drafted it, he said, eyes not leaving the carpet pattern. I used full sentences, didn't know what else to do. Good, David said. Full sentences are underrated. They cut through a lobby where the city looked back in reflection and found the municipal building's side stairs, the ones that smelled like old carpet and rule books. The Housing Authority hearing room wore fluorescent earnestness, and folding chairs set in rows as straight as hope. A banner promised parks in blues and greens that didn't exist yet. The clerk took delivery of Priya's packet like a christening. Under seal, Priya said, time-stamped, provisional receipts for letters. The woman nodded and slid the stack into a drawer that stuck, tugged. 1. Bureaucracy has its own dignity. Before the board reconvened, the consultant ambled over with a smile she'd filed smooth. We're all on the same side, she said. Houses for families. Partnerships. Great, Marcus said, tone bright as a warning light. Then you'll love sunlight. She blinked, smiled again, backed away 2 steps, and pretended she'd intended 3. A text vibrated in Priya's hand. Master deletion attempt. Detected Vweet Wushasan. Device 2. Not successful. Asterisk asterisk. She showed David. He didn't grin so much as untighten at the edges. People think calculators are evidence proof. Priya murmured. They're not. The hearing resumed. The chair tried on a voice of steel and found aluminum. The city attorney took the mic and made law sound like weather. We advise deferral of item 4, he said. Undisclosed payments routed through an entity labeled times Maha asterisk, and material discrepancies between English and Arabic drafts. Hands rose. Motions seconded. Some faces softened. Others calcified. The gavel found more weight than it had earlier. They didn't linger. The plaza had started to collect microphones like small birds. Marcus steered them into the shadowed side street that smelled of fryer, oil, and bleach. A delivery van eased into reverse, beeping its little metronome. A kid balanced on a curb, arms out like a tightrope walker in sneakers. Amara walked with her hands in her hoodie, thumb rubbing the taped corner of a torn page she'd saved. It scratched her skin, a tiny warning wearing paper. She didn't mind. It felt like a note from herself, folded and stowed. Upstairs again. The war room had become a map entity names, webbed with string, dates pinned like insects. The monitor rolled in a pelican case and a metal cart. Custodian list, she said, dropping a stack that thunked. Preservation notices went out at 6:01. If anyone sneezes on metadata, I'll know which nostril. Mirror, Hajar, Anka. Anything with a gemstone or a desert wind, Priya said, already flipping the top sheet, already served. The monitor said, data room at 2, bring a sweater. They think freezing is security. Kesha's phone buzzed in its Faraday sleeve, a moth trapped under glass. Priya glanced at the window in the bag. Read the number. Set it down. Unknown. Logged, she said. We'll unjar it in front of a camera later. At noon, the judge's clerk pinged counsel. Asterisk, asterisk. Status moved up. E. 30 p.m. Asterisk, asterisk. They ate standing rice in paper boats, hummus in little tubs, chicken bones under white napkins, grease-freckled receipts. Someone set a lemon oil bottle near the evidence cabinet, and the room smelled for a moment like wood, not war. Back through the magnetometer, back into fluorescent truth. The special master slid into her seat with a laptop and a calm that had sharpened on chain forms. The judge took the bench as if taking a wheel. Affiliates, she said. The monitor rose. Asterisk. Maha asterisk. Ahar asterisk. Anka. Times. Share rails, she said. 2 shells times Rimal asterisk. Asterisk Zafir times. Copy-pasted invoices from times Hajar asterisk. Same font sin. We froze at 10:06. Attempts at 10:07. We imaged 2 devices with deletion attempts post-notice. Not successful. Opposing counsel started to object. The judge looked over her glasses, and he found a different hobby. Interim injunction expands to all successor entities, the judge said. Pencil moving. Transfers frozen. Monitor empowered to audit affiliates and vendors. City attorney will coordinate with bank under the carotid clause. We discussed. If I see one more clever memo line, I will assume you want a different kind of weekend. A hand lifted from the last row like a man asking for water. Yusuf stood with counsel half a step behind. He looked smaller in this light and more real. I can testify, he said. His English carried sand from somewhere else. He didn't apologize for it. Under seal or loud? The judge asked. Loud is fine, he said. People hear better when it costs. He walked to the lectern as if approaching a cliff and a bridge at once. I manage paper, he said. They called it compliance. It meant adjusting mirrors. I saw the 30. I saw the penalty. I sent them. I told myself it was translation. It was theft. He glanced once at Omar. Quick. Ashamed to be brave. Brave anyway. He said the judge is noise. He said the girl is noise. He said move money through times. Anka times when noise is loud. Silence folded around the words like a case. The court reporter's keys clicked, translating man to record. The judge watched him with a doctor's eye when the X-ray already speaks. Counsel will work with the monitor on protections, she said. Thank you. Omar's jaw worked once, a hinge remembering Russ. He leaned toward his assistant and lapsed back into safety. The microphones were greedy. Asterisk. Finish the backup plan. Asterisk, he said in Arabic. Asterisk, the American can't watch everything. Translation. The judge asked, already knowing. Ayad stood and turned it into English that made people shift their feet. David didn't move much when he was near a kill. Backup plan, he said aloud, not looking at anyone. The driver. He said it soft enough the air had to lean to hear. A marshal in the back slipped out through the side door. Already on a radio, they emerged into late light that made stone glow. The plaza hummed. Kesha rolled the lemon bottle under her palm along the low wall. The way you sue the table, how bad? She asked without drama. Honest bad, David said. The kind you can carry. Emma bounded up from the park, shin guards crooked. Victory bright. She pressed her forehead to Amara's for a beat. A soccer ritual translated to survival. We won, she said. Mean kids run out of breath early. Remember that. Marcus said. He was looking at the cross street. Not the kids. A black sedan idled under a sycamore. Dark windows reflecting leaves. The passenger window slid down an inch. Air moved. A voice came out smooth as clean glass. Mr. Harrison. It said, a word. Marcus stepped between. Not today, he said. The sedan eased forward. A cat pretending furniture. The rear tire grazed the curb with a small, stupid thunk. A cruiser that had looked decorative lit its bar once. Red-blue in a blink that changes physics. Two uniforms approached without hurry. License and registration. One said, step out of the vehicle. The driver's jaw went tight. He opened the door anyway. A roll of cash lay in the footwell, rubber band pinching its middle. A thumb drive lived under the mat with tape that had aspirations. The officer set both on the hood, took photos, bagged, as if he'd been born with chain forms in his pockets. Sir, you're being detained on suspicion of tampering with a witness, the other officer said. You have the right. The breeze stole the rest. People recalculated. From the steps, Omar watched his plan make a quiet mess. Pride is a poor navigator. He turned as if the building might offer him a different exit. A marshal stepped into his path with a badge that did most of the talking. Passport restrictions, she said. Back inside. Hubris blinked. He obeyed. They didn't cheer. They went back to work. Email notices. Exhibits. A bank letter confirming freezes under the carotid clause. The printer chittered, proud. The special master pinged a hash digest that read like found poetry. Priya taped the newest receipt to the inside cover of the binder, spine flexing with quiet satisfaction. Evening thinned. In the office window, a moth had returned to the cold pane, wings powdering a faint galaxy. Amara pressed her forehead to the glass and fogged a small oval, then drew a gray dot with her nail and let it vanish. She touched the taped corner inside her pocket and felt the tiny rasp of paper. Price. not warning. She could name it now. Tomorrow, David said, closing the laptop with a click that sounded like a promise kept. Tomorrow. Kesha echoed, voice steady. Amara didn't say the word. She watched the moth choose the seam where light and dark met and stay there, stubborn as truth. Then she turned from the glass and went to wash her hands. Lemon in the lines, ink at the nails, ready to do the boring thing again. The garage breathed cold and chemical, a low hum of fluorescence and distant compressors. Concrete sweated under tires. Kesha's sedan sat crooked in its slot. Both front wheels sagged into black smiles. Marcus crouched, palms steady on the fender. Valve stems, he said, rolling a torn nub between finger and thumb. Clean snip. Old trick. Still mean. The air smelled like wet metal and road salt. Amara hugged her backpack to her chest and listened to the building's lungs, ducts pushing slides, a fan catching, the rattle of loose sheet metal like utensils in a drawer. She pressed the taped corner of a torn page inside her hoodie pocket until the paper rasped her skin. A note to herself. Feel this. It's real. They took a hired car up through streets, steaming where rain met warm asphalt. The elevator coughed them onto their floor. Hall lit hospital bright. Their apartment door was shut, but wrong deadbolt flat. Chain at ease, knobs shining with a wiped look. On my shoulder, Marcus said, turning the knob with his weight first. Inside, nothing was broken. Everything was touched. Drawers out a finger's width. Closet doors, not fully closed, cushions lifted, then placed back like they'd been taught manners. On the kitchen table, a stainless bowl sat centered like an exhibit. Inside, Amara's notebook, belly up in water, pages swelling, ink bleeding toward a soft gray cloud. Kesha stopped in the doorway, hand on the frame as if the wood could tell her what to do. No, she didn't say it loud. The word arrived already tired. Amara slid 2 fingers under the top sheet and lifted. The paper separated into tongues that clung, then gave up. Ink ran down her wrist in a thin black vein. She didn't cry. She tilted the page toward the lamp and watched water gather along the lower edge until it fell in a single bead that made a sound like a watch tick. Priya moved first. She set her bag on the counter and opened it into order. Nitrile gloves, evidence stickers, clear bags with tamper seals, a pad of forms with boxes that wanted names, 3 distances, she said. Phone already framing room. Table. Bowl. Chain begins now. The shutter clicked in a sequence that felt like breathing. Water to a sample vial. She added, label with address, time, and note times possible contaminant asterisk. Kesha slipped on gloves with a practiced snap and lifted the notebook with both hands as if it were a newborn. The cardboard cover sagged, a drowned tongue. It was just paper, she said, cradling it anyway. Paper's a message, Marcus said. Eyes, roving window latches, and heater vents. He touched nothing that would smudge. No pry marks. No forced entry. They used a key or a smile. David was already on the phone. Voice clipped. Addendum to protective order. Harassment and attempted spoliation. He said to the clerk, we've got images. Theme stumps. We'll have a detective's report by morning. He listened. Yes, we'll file tonight. Amara padded to her room. On the bedspread, a palm print she didn't recognize pressed the fabric, as if someone had tested the softness. Her school picture on the dresser was tilted half an inch. She straightened it and felt nothing change. Back in the kitchen, the stainless bowl watched her like a blind eye. They packed fast. 2 changes of clothes. The photo of mother and daughter with cotton candy halos, chargers, medicine, a hairbrush, lemon oil from the cleaning caddy, Because hands needed something to do, Jamal's mother knocked, scarf tight, a roll of clear plastic under her arm like a baton. For the windows, she said, already unspooling. Corners tight. You taught me corners. Thank you, Kesha said, the words small and full. The company apartment wore its neutrality like a suit white walls. Art so careful it vanished. A carpet eager to please. Marcus did a loop, checking under sinks and behind the sofa. Doorstop wedged. Chain slid. Phones on the counter. He said, Faraday sleeves or off with batteries. No surprises in pockets. Priya built an altar at the dining table. Seals with cereals. A notary stamp. Copies of the interim order. A hard case for evidence. Affidavits, she said, laying out 2, under seal. We can file initials for a minor, facts only. No adjectives. She looked at Amara. Ready. Amara set the ruined corner from her hoodie on the table like proof. Yes. She took the pen. The paper whispered under her hand. Cheap stock. Lint in the fibers. She wrote in clean beats. Who, where, when, the words she had heard, the numbers hidden in them. In the blank labeled languages used, she printed asterisk Arabic Gulf dialect, English asterisk. The letters climbed a little. They did not waver. Priya notarized with a stamp thunk. The embossed sun caught the lamp and held it. She sealed the recorder from the municipal hearing into a bag, wrote the time, pressed the zip until the plastic teeth met, then signed across the tape. Night fault, she said. Master at 9 a.m. Kesha's phone vibrated once on the counter inside its silver sleeve. A moth buzz that never reached signal. Priya checked the tiny window. Unknown. She logged the time with neat loops. We'll open it on camera in the morning. Another buzz. A message pushed through the wire and died against the mesh. A single line in a script that felt like sand. Asterisk. You have what you need. They will come for me now. Asterisk. No signature. The moth icon at the end felt almost human. Amara read the curve of the letters and heard the voice that owned them. Not a friend, not exactly an enemy. A hinga creaking. Yusuf, she said softly. Do not reply, Priya said, sliding the phone deeper into foil. We acknowledge through counsel or not at all. David spread a legal pad and made 3 columns. Asterisk, asterisk. Protective, asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Preservation, asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk. Witness, asterisk, asterisk. Night security rotation, he said. Hall camera coverage. Clerk notified. City attorney loop. Master will accept a second packet at 9. He paused. Bryce will sign his affidavit. He's ready. Kesha rubbed lemon oil into her palms until the scent climbed and the burn in her chest loosened. What happens to us? She asked. Not the case. The people in it, you sleep, David said, as if sleep were a thing you can order. You let us be boring. He meant, you get to be a mother and a kid for a night, and we hold the paper at midnight. The building thinned to ductwork and elevator cable. Marcus's earpiece hissed once and went silent. A message buzzed from the special master. Asterisk, asterisk, device images complete. Deletion attempts detected. Not successful, asterisk, asterisk. Priya forwarded it to the clerk with one line. Asterisk. Filed with gratitude to gravity. Kesha tried the second bedroom and returned to the couch with a throw that smelled like container ship. She studied the notary stamp near her elbow, as if municipal moons could ward off dreams. You should sleep, she said without turning. I am, Amara said from the cushion, voice small and bright. Her eyes were open, hand under the taped corner of paper she'd rescued from the bowl, now pressed flat under a spoon to dry. edges stiff as bark. Under it she'd written, in block letters, asterisk, asterisk, knowledge is light, asterisk, asterisk. Below, the same sentence in another alphabet, the ink feathered and fixed. In the lower margin, 4 dots red, blue, green, gray weighted like planets. She dozed to the sound of the building's pulse vents, a fridge cough, a neighbor's laugh, crossing drywall. Like a porch conversation, she woke to paper. Priya had collated 6 copies of the affidavits, clips biting down, a sticky note in a square hand, asterisk, asterisk, 9A, M, master, known hearing, IDs, asterisk, asterisk. The letters looked as dependable as a bridge. Morning arrived, pale as dishwater. The coffee maker hissed. The apartment smelled like a hotel trying to be a house. Keisha made eggs in a pan that had never known heat and burned the first batch without apologizing. Amara ate toast with nothing on it and rubbed the taped edge of the rescued wing as if checking a pulse. The knock came mid-bite. Not police. HR, a calendar face, and someone from legal with a narrow notebook, both trying for sympathetic, "Thank you for meeting with us." The first one said, hands folded, voice powdered, "We're here to discuss a potential policy violation, presence of an unauthorized minor in a restricted conference room during a client meeting." Kesha sat with her back straight. "We were there at the request of counsel," she said, "under order. We understand legal matters are ongoing." Legal added, half-smile, "This is separate, safety and policy. We're placing you on paid administrative leave while we review." "Paid," the first one repeated, like a mint to cover aftertaste. "Your badge, please." Kesha unclipped it. The plastic made a small clack on the table. "Do I lose health insurance?" she asked. "No," Calendar Face said, "not at this time." "Process," Kesha said, not asking. "Process," they said, relieved to have the word. Marcus watched from the doorway, posture wide enough to be a hinge. David held his tongue long enough to choose nouns that wouldn't hurt later. "Will memorialize that any adverse action tied to testimony is retaliatory," he said. In writing, today, they left a yellow envelope that tried to be friendly. When the door shut, the apartment was bigger and emptier in the same breath. Kesha turned the badge over once in her fingers, then set it down like a rib she didn't know she'd need. By mid-morning, they were back in motion. The special master's office took the new packet like a baker takes bread. The chain sheet grew numbers that felt like vertebrae. "Hashing," she said. These things she repeats now like prayer. "Mirror complete. Worm copy." Her pencil made its little saw music. The data room called after lunch, cold enough to make breath show. The monitor handed out thin jackets. "They believe freezing is custody," she said. "It's theater. We'll take logs." A man with a laminated badge read the order 3 times and found his manners. "You want access logs and any PDFs that think they're invisible," he said, sliding a keyboard across the anti-static mat. "Everything thinks it's invisible," the monitor said. "That's how I make rent." They printed indexes with a clatter that felt like hail, bagged them, signed seals. The cold made Amara's fingers ache. She pressed the taped wing to the glass case of a server until warmth ghosted back from paper to skin. She lifted her hand and watched her breath flatten and clear. In the elevator, Kesha's phone vibrated again inside its foil. Priya checked the window. HR email. This time, subject line with too many hyphens. She didn't open it. "On the record," she said. "In court air, not hallway air." Bryce met them by the machine that sells sodas with light. He held a folder like it purred. "Affidavit signed," he said. Eyes not kite steady. Full sentences. Full sentences save lives, Foster said, shouldering past with a stack of letters. Almost as much as receipts. Evening found them back in the white apartment, more tired than the furniture. The lemon scent clung to hands and the ridge of the notary seal caught light. Kesha finally opened the HR email with everyone watching like family. Asterisk, asterisk, termination for policy non-compliance. Asterisk, asterisk, benefits through end of month. Appeal rights attached. She sat back, face composed, breath shallow. They did it safe, she said. No scandal. End of month. The polite way to say get out. We appeal, David said. We will, she said. Just not tonight. She looked at her hands as if they belonged to a different job now and flexed them like wings. Tonight we carry the thing. Amara slid the notebook toward her, the taped wing catching a stripe from the lamp. Underneath the gray blot where water had ruined a page, the words she'd written last night showed through. Stubborn. She added a fifth dot in the margin, a small, nearly invisible circle of graphite. What's that one? Emma asked from the doorway. Soccer ball under her arm, hair escaping its tie. Cost, Amara said. Not warning. Not go. The price you pay to be the noise people hear. Emma nodded like a person who had run sprints until her lungs hurt. Coach says you win by staying where you hate and making the ball come to you. Coach is a good jurist, Bria said, flat enough to be funny. Night pressed its face to the window. Across the street, the courthouse lamp collected its tiny galaxy of bugs. On their side of the glass, a moth had found the seam where pane meets frame. It stayed, a fingertip of dust, against all that decision. Amara breathed on the glass and drew the gray dot again in fog. It faded. The taped wing kept a thin, stubborn sheen. They turned off the lamp and let the room hum fridge. Vent. The cooling tick of the printer. Tomorrow would be loud. Tonight, the boring held like a scaffold. And on the window, the moth did not move. It didn't have to. The courthouse smelled like wet wool and printer heat. Morning flattened the river outside to tin and turned the atrium's glass into pale skin. Security trays rattled, keys making brief metal laughter before belts swallowed them. They took the second row without ceremony. Fluorescence laid a clean, blunt light across wood that had learned patience. The clerk called the case. Shoes scraped. A pen clicked and didn't stop. On the preliminary injunction, the judge said, voice mid-Atlantic, worn down to stone, will proceed by proffer and exhibits. Priya rose with the binder hugged to her ribs. Thumb parked on a tab that read, asterisk, asterisk, comparative drafts, asterisk, asterisk, 2 versions, she said, English seasonal review, shared control, Arabic 30 days to transfer, 200 million in liquidated damages. The discrepancy isn't translation, it's design. She set down a packet with a neat thud. The special master slid a duplicate to the bench, chain sheet clipped on top like a vertebra. Opposing counsel stood with a smile. Shave to neutral. Industry variance, he said. Regional usage. My client intends flexibility. Flexibility doesn't write a stopwatch, the judge replied. Interpreter. Ms. Ayad stepped to the side lectern. Cardigan pilled at the elbows, pencil behind her ear. She read the Arabic text, then the English, her voice unhurried. Vowels clean. Upon passage of 30 days, primary authority shall be deemed transferred to the partner, she translated, and in the event of attempted revocation, liquidated damages of 200 million. She looked up. There's no ambiguity in that clause. The judge nodded once. The way a person acknowledges gravity. Interim order stand, she said. No execution of any version inconsistent with the English. Will reconvene on status after lunch. Devices. The special master already had a cart by the rail. Antistatic mat unrolled like a field. Phones and the laptop imaged overnight. She said, worm copy verified. Any deletions after last night's preservation notice logged and captured. Will mirror anything new at intake. Opposing counsel opened his mouth. The judge lifted a finger. It changed the weather. Save adjectives for closing, she said. Follow the order. They stepped into the corridor and let the building breathe around them. Citrus cleaner. Toner. The faint sugar of a muffin someone couldn't finish. Reporters hovered at the edges of the protective radius. Microphones pretending to be flowers. Marcus's presence turned elbows into distance. They took the stairs down 2 flights, past a mural of a city that believed in parks, into the small office, where the special master had turned a conference table into a lab. Evidence bags waited with mouths open. Hashing, she said, sliding a cable home. The screen filled with alphanumeric static, a constellation no one could fake without lying to math. Seal number. Priya read it aloud, wrote it twice, initialed the tape. Little rituals built a bridge sturdy enough to carry anger. Late morning pushed them across the plaza to the municipal building. The public hearing room wore fluorescent earnestness and rows of folding chairs that squeaked when anyone shifted. A banner at the back promised ***, parks and homes for all. ***, in blue letters that had never been rained on. A box of cardboard coffee hissed behind the dais. Peppermint candies sweated in a bowl. They took the second row again. The chair rapped a gavel that sounded like a spoon in an empty pan. Item 4, she said, eyes resolutely on the agenda. Land use authorization for Phase 1. A consultant rose with a tablet and a smile that had practiced in mirrored elevators. We're excited to partner with the community, she said. Our polling indicates broad support. Letters from faith leaders, youth programs, and small businesses reflect enthusiasm. She handed a stack to the clerk, who took them as if they might shed glitter. Received provisionally, the clerk said, voice steady, eyes dull from years of provisions. The city attorney, a compact woman with a long memory, took the auxiliary mic. Madam Chair, we've reviewed conflicting contract drafts and ledgers showing undisclosed payments routed through an entity labeled Times Maha ***, she said. Until we verify those payments, deferral is advisable. She kept her eyes on paper as if the paper were the only face she trusted. A board member in a blazer the color of damp cardboard shifted, then cleared his throat. So moved. Second, said the youngest member, pen already tapping. In favor, hands rose in an untidy harvest. The gavel made its small sound. It was enough to loosen shoulders. Omar reached the podium with a diplomat's poise, suit falling just so. We welcome transparency, he said. The 30-day clause is a placeholder. Penalties are industry standard. We're here to build homes. Behind him, Yusuf sat 2 rows back, tight, jaw tighter. He stared at the agenda like it had teeth. His thumb pressed a pale half-moon into his palm and held interpreter. The chair said, without drama, read the Arabic paragraph. Ayad pushed up her glasses with a knuckle and did the work. The room made a small, dangerous sound, murmur braided with inhale. A tenant leader in a red windbreaker lifted a hand and was recognized. My kids can't sleep in placeholders, she said into the mic. If the English says one thing and the other says something that kicks us out, we should know that before the ribbon cutting. Omar kept his smile. His assistant leaned toward him and spoke low in a language he assumed was safe. Asterisk. Move the signature. Ask for venue change. Delay is our engine. Asterisk. The municipal microphone, hungrier than he realized, ate the words and drooled them over the PA. Silence drew itself up. It wasn't shocked. It sharpened. Translation. The chair said. Ayad rendered the sentence into polite English, with the edge intact. A rustle moved through the room like wind through hard grass. The city attorney raised one eyebrow in a tone of Times. Thank you for saying the quiet part, loud asterisk. The chair tapped the gavel once. Crisp. We're in recess, she said, and turned toward counsel as security drifted into the aisle without touching anyone. The consultant closed her tablet, as if a lid could put the moment away. Outside, the plaza tasted of hot concrete and bus exhaust. Umbrellas opened like small arguments. They didn't give the cameras more than a shape. The protective order was a polite fence with teeth. The building cast a shadow large enough to stand in it. By noon, the courthouse had cooled into a different kind of weather. The judge returned to the bench with hair that had conceded nothing to the clock. Status, she said, and the monitor wheeled her case back to the rail like a nurse with a cart. Affiliates freeze holding, the monitor reported, Hachar, asterisk, Maha, asterisk, Anka, times flagged. We found a maintenance rubber stamp, over an hour of doorcam footage at the housing authority, raw frames recovered. People were kept out. She set a drive in a bag and slid it to the special master, who received it as if it were hot. Opposing counsel tried an objection on for size. The judge looked over her glasses and let the word die of exposure. This is not a seminar, she said. Interim order is extended, no timed transfers. No penalties hidden in languages. You hope I don't read. A deputy came to the rail with a note and a face that had rehearsed neutral. The judge read it and let one eyebrow rise the width of a breath. We will also address reports of harassment, she said. Anyone thinking proximity will produce capitulation is advised to try a different century. After the gavel, they took the long hall, air cooler than morning, sound swallowed by carpet. In the small office where cables nested, the special master handed Priya a receipt that looked like poetry if you loved procedure. Your recorder, she said, hash matches. Will mirror the municipal room video by end of day. The afternoon sagged into logistics and choices. Bryce appeared by the soda machine with a folder that looked heavier than paper. I signed, he said. Full names. Crossrefs. I wish I didn't know. Stay boring, Foster told him, because care can sound like insult when you're tired. He tried a smile and lost it. They're calling me disloyal, he said. I think that means I'm new. Congratulations, Marcus said. Deadpan. It passed for comfort. They ate standing rice that cooled too fast. Chicken spicy enough to feel like a decision. Emma, cleats in a bag, drifted in and sat on the carpet cross-legged, feeding a dinosaur Fern, the last of her pretzel rods. Coach says keep your shape when you're tired, she offered, as if she were reading from a casebook. Don't chase. Make the play come to you. Coach should clerk for the 9th, Priya said, stealing a bite and writing a subject line at the same time. Late daylight turned the window to a soft rectangle. The moth found the pane again and pressed its wings flat, powder leaving a faint smudge like erased handwriting. Amara touched the taped wing on her page and felt warmth ghost back to her skin. She added a neat line of numbers under the dots, timestamps. Notations only she would understand later. Her phone, sleeping in its sleeve, vibrated with a moth buzz that didn't reach the world. Priya checked the log, logged the time, set it back down. Tomorrow, she said, not to anyone. The air that carried their choices. Toward evening, the city attorney called from a doorway with a view of a flag and a scaffolding. We'll move to formalize a monitorship, she said. Expand to any successors and shells. banks ready to install a carotid clause for the rails. Her voice had the clean weight of someone who had decided not to apologize for competence. They returned to the courtroom for one last matter, a petition to compel production of native files. The special master had prepped the projector. The code view of a PDF blinked up, glyphs in small boxes, a zero-width joiner labeled **ZWJ, like a pill. Metadata doesn't lie well, she said. It wasn't flourish, it was comfort. Opposing counsel claimed convergent drafting. The judge gave him just enough rope to tangle his own feet. We'll bring this back with contempt on Friday, she said. For now, I want an order that any backup plan someone muttered at a mic is stayed with the rest. After the gavel, they slid into the blue hour. The plaza exhaled. The building let its heat go like old bread cooling. A tail tried to be a shadow and got bored when Marcus boarded first 3 legal lefts, a stop at a well-lit garage, a stare that suggested different choices. The car peeled off, embarrassed by its mirror tint. In the apartment, the notary stamp sat near the lemon oil like a small municipal moon. The termination email lay under a coaster, as if weight could change ink. Beans and rice again, the kind of food that knows how to wait. They didn't talk about bravery. They filled forms and numbered exhibits and checked printers for fresh paper. Status tomorrow, David said, closing his laptop as if the act could contain the day. Public meeting. 2, Priya added, the letters, the ledgers. The door cam, we turn noise into nouns. Kesha stood at the window with her palm on the glass, forehead near the pane. Her breath fogged a small oval. With one finger, she drew a dot in the fog and let it fade. We carry it, she said. It wasn't a speech. It was a plan. Amara pressed the taped wing and felt the tack lift and settle. She drew a gray dot under the others and wrote one word beside it in a small, square hand. Price. The letters looked like a doorframe. Night fell honest and ordinary. Across the street, the courthouse lamp pulled its usual orbit of bugs from the dark. The moth on their side of the glass stayed with the seam shadow over shine, glass over flame. In the hum of vents and the cooling tick of a printer, they balanced procedure against fear and found a shape that held. Tomorrow would come with new noun. For now, the light on the taped wing was thin and stubborn, and enough. Dawn turned the river to milk and the office glass to pale skin. The war room smelled like dry erase and warm printer, a faint bite of old coffee in the corners. On the window, a moth slept on the cold pane, wings pressed flat as if it had decided to be a thumbprint instead of a thing that flew. The monitor rolled in a pelican case, and a metal cart, custodian list, she said, dropping a stack that thunked. Preservation notices went out at 6:01. If anyone sneezes on metadata, I'll know which nostril. Priya flipped the top page, already uncapping a pen. Mirror, Hajar. Anka, anything named after a wind or a gemstone. Already served. The monitor said, data room at 11. Bring a sweater. Those rooms think freezing is security. David circled a date on the whiteboard and wrote, **contempt. Friday, **. His handwriting carried the weather of a man who had slept near a briefcase. Marcus stood at the door with his quiet, a hinge you forgot, until the door swung wrong. Amara perched on the sill where the heater grumbled. She opened her notebook. The taped wing caught a thin stripe of light. In the margin, she sketched a small gray rectangle and shaded it. A door. No one had noticed until now. The moth on the glass twitched once and settled. Kesha's phone buzzed on the counter inside its silver sleeve. Priya checked the caller ID through the cutout window. Facilities, she said. I'll take it. A polite voice. A script. HR would like to see Ms. Williams. 10 minutes. Keisha smoothed her polo, the fabric gone soft from too many wash cycles. Let's go, she said. It wasn't a request. It was a walk she'd been training for all her life. The elevator was a cool box, mirrored walls, turning them into 4 people, pretending to be calm. On the lobby level, HR wore a plant, a carpet that tried too hard, glass that fogged where breath met it. A receptionist smiled with only teeth. In the small conference room, an HR manager with a calendar face sat with a second person who didn't introduce himself. The air had a powder smell, paper and citrus. A printed form sat on the table, corners aligned to the edge like a military bed. Thank you for coming, Ms. Williams, the manager said, fingers laced. We're reviewing an incident. Presence of an unauthorized minor in a restricted conference room during a client meeting. Kesha kept her palms flat. We were there at counsel's request, under order. We understand there are legal matters pending. This review is separate. The manager's voice softened in the way that makes a bruise ache. We're placing you on paid administrative leave while we investigate. Paid. The second person echoed, as if the word had vitamin. Badge. Please. The manager added, practice gentle. Kesha unclipped the plastic and laid it down. The card made a soft clack. She didn't look at it. Do I lose health insurance? No, the manager said. This is not disciplinary at this time. It's process. Kesha finished. The word landed like a brick. David's jaw worked once. He kept his voice legal. We'll confirm in writing that any adverse action tied to testimony is retaliatory. You'll receive that protection today. The manager slid a yellow envelope across the table. 5 business days. Keys, please. We'll escort you to your locker. Marcus watched the hall through the glass. He didn't move. He didn't need to. His stillness made the room feel smaller. In the locker room, detergent and damp metal. A dryer thumped like a tired heartbeat. Kesha folded a spare polo with the care of someone who believed in corners. She tucked it into her tote and held on a second longer than a shirt needed. You okay? Amara asked. Kesha's laugh was a note without harmony. I will be, she said. Right now, I'm angry, and I'm tired of being brave. Amara didn't reach for her. She slid a small bottle of lemon oil from the cleaning caddy into the tote. Keeps the wood from drying, she said. Not a fix, a fact. Back upstairs. Priya had 2 emails drafted, one to HR, one to the judge's clerk. Asterisk, asterisk. Notice of potential retaliatory action. Asterisk, asterisk. Attachments queued. Subject lines tidy. We send, she said. We log. We don't bleed on their carpet. A courier knocked padded envelope. Signature required. The monitor slid it with a thumbnail. Data room codes, she said. Also a strongly worded letter about confidentiality that treats proprietary like a talisman. She smiled without warmth. Cute. At 11. Counsel for Yusuf arrived, carrying a square gray drive in a clear bag. He placed it on the antistatic mat like a small animal. Provided voluntarily, he said. Anonymous source. Our client requests anonymity regarding provenance. Priya gloved up. Read the serial aloud. Wrote it down. Slid the connector home. Hashing, she murmured. The screen filled with alphanumeric snow. A quiet army marching. Mounting. The video opened on a timestamp and a gray room. A security office with monitors tiled in lobbies and corridors. Audio carried fan noise and nylon shuffle. A supervisor leaned on a desk and spoke to 2 guards. Tone flattening the air. Tenant committees at 6. he said. Put under maintenance on the doors until 7. If anyone asks, water main. If anyone pushes, you didn't hear me. Copy. A guard answered, pen clicking like a metronome for bad ideas. The supervisor lowered his voice. If the woman from 3B shows, you didn't understand her. Not our language. Then another voice, off camera. The kind that makes people lean without knowing they're leaning. And tell Mr. Al-Rashid. The flyer count was low. It said, he doesn't like surprises. Silence collected like dust. Priya froze the frame, printed to PDF, wrote the timestamp with neat aggression, Exhibit HR 19. She said, easing her voice back to steady, chain intact. Marcus rewound once, watched the guard's face. When times, not our language, times landed. The mouth said times, copy asterisk. The eyes didn't. Alvarez, he said, reading the stitched name. Bring him the right way. He'll tell you twice. The data room breathed cold. Rax, Hummel, under blue light. A man with a laminated badge read their order like scripture and decided to be useful. Logs are here, he said, tapping a console. Backups on tape. PDFs in a drawer that sticks. The monitor worked like a wrench. Access logs into bags with tamper seals. Indexes printing with the clatter of a small storm. The cold made Amara's fingers ache. She pressed the taped wing against a glass server face until the chill cut paper and skin. She watched her breath fog, flatten, and clear. Lunch was eaten standing dry sandwiches, apple slices browning slow. Foster scribbled, asterisk, asterisk, retaliatory timing, asterisk, asterisk, in a margin and underlined times. Timing asterisk. Bryce hovered like prey trying to learn stillness. I turned in my resignation, he said to no one in particular. HR looked at me like I'd brought a casserole to a funeral. We need you longer than you think, David said. Don't write emails you'll hate. Kesha's phone vibrated in its Faraday sleeve, the dull moth buzz of a message that wouldn't reach the world. Priya checked the log, unknown number, no connection, and set it back down. Discipline had a sound now. Afternoon slipped into the hour where workrooms get soft at the edges. The city attorney called with a voice sharpened on phone trees. We'll address HR with counsel, she said. In the meantime, I'll make sure facilities learns times chilling effect asterisk. Carefully. Carefully, David echoed. It sounded like armor. Yusuf came late. Eyes smaller, teeth crooked. Counsel glued to his elbow. He didn't look at Amara. Then didn't. He slid a paper across the table bank logo. A number in the memo line. Asterisk, asterisk, consulting Maha. Asterisk, asterisk. The date sat like a dare. A transfer I didn't authorize, he said. From Times, Hajar Times, to a place I never heard of. They move money with my name. He looked down. If you need me to say it, I'll say it. On the record, Priya asked. On the record, he said, as if he were choosing how to drown. Priya logged the paper, bagged it, wrote the serial on the tape like a seam that would not fail. The chain of custody language moved through the room like oxygen. By 3:30, Marcus had walked Kesha to the elevator and paused before the doors closed. You did the right thing, he said. That doesn't pay the rent, but it pays everything else. Kesha smiled with only half her mouth. Tell that to the rent, she said. The elevator swallowed her. Her absence bent the room in a way no furniture could fix. In the lull, the building hummed vents, a distant copier coughing back to life. The clock, tick-tick like a nail settling. David sat at the end of the table and let the quiet take his weight. We add retaliation to the list, he said. We keep receipts. The monitor popped back in with a list that could chock a door. Tomorrow we pull emails, she said. Vendor invoices with matching typos in 3 places. Minutes with teeth missing. If I do this right, all I need in court is a clock and a printer. Printer's the loudest thing in any room, Bria said, almost smiling like a person and not a job. Late light leaned gold against the blinds. Dust motes hung like lazy planets. The moth on the window woke and rode the seam where glass met frame, pausing at the tape line on the drawn wing. It looked like punctuation deciding to be a word. Amara closed her notebook and pressed her palm flat over the taped paper. Heat ghosted back. Beneath her hand, the gray dot she'd added in the morning felt different now. Not warning. Price. Practice. Emma's voice from the doorway. Soccer bag. Thumping. Coach says keep your shape when you're tired. Coach is right, Marcus said. Deadpan. And the room let itself breathe for a beat. Evening gathered. They filed out in a quiet line. Work stacked for morning like sandbags. The plaza smelled of fryer oil and wet stone. A sedan with windows too dark idled at the corner like furniture pretending to be a cat. Marcus stared at it until it remembered physics and drifted away. Back at the apartment, the thermostat purred at a number someone else had set. The notary stamp sat near the lemon oil like a small municipal moon. Beans again. Rice again. Routine as resistance. Kesha put her palm on the window and fogged a small oval. With one finger, she drew a dot and let it fade. We carry it, she said, not asking anyone to help and knowing they would. Amara opened the notebook at the table, added the day's timestamps in a neat column, and drew 4 dots red, blue, green, gray beneath the wing. She touched the gray last. It didn't feel like fear. It felt like math, a number you pay because the thing matters. The power flickered once and steadied. The room went pale and warm again, as if the building had changed its mind. Outside, the moth on the pane stayed with the seam shadow over shine, glass over bulb. Inside, the printer ticked as it cooled. The fridge coughed. A neighbor above dragged a chair. Small noises arranged themselves into a hum that felt, to anyone listening long enough, like a promise. Morning put a nickel sheen on the river and turned the office glass to pale steel. The war room smelled like dry erase and printer heat, the good hum of a machine doing the same honest thing over and over. A moth slept on the window seam, powder gray, a comma holding its breath. Amara sat on the sill with her knees up, notebook open to the page where a taped paper wing caught a sliver of light and kept it. Priya capped and uncapped a pen like a metronome. We have a leak, she said. We stopped guessing who. We set a canary. David rolled his sleeves. The inked calendar on the whiteboard already partitioned into asterisk, asterisk, contempt monitorship status, asterisk, asterisk. Innocuous, traciable, and deniable, he said, and it needs to sing in court. Clause 48. Priya said, fingers quick on her laptop. Housekeeping, quarterly reports. Nothing sexy. I'll insert a zero with joiner. Inside times quarterly. Asterisk invisible to eyes. Loud to a hash. Foster, who had drifted in carrying a travel mug, and the morning's sharpness didn't look up. I'll misnumber a subclause 48bi and cross-reference to 49ec, which conveniently does not exist, she said. And I'll misspell times mutatis mutandis times with 1 times t times in a footnote Carter can't resist. Recipients, David asked, already thinking chain of custody. 3, Priya said. Carter, Sullivan, and Bryce. She hesitated at Bryce's name. He deserves the chance not to be the leak. She spun up a quarantined workspace with view-only privileges and a watermark that would timestamp every blink. Sending, she murmured, emails left like birds released from hands 1, 2, 3. The screen bloomed with little flags. C. 18 Carter feud. C. 19 Sullivan feud. C. 24 Bryce viewed. Asterisk, asterisk. Carter zoomed on the footnote. The system logged 11 seconds on the lat. Bryce hovered over 48 by and moved on. The moth twitched once like punctuation. Now we wait, David said. He hated waiting. It showed only in the muscle that flickered near his jaw. They didn't crowd the screen, because staring makes time cruel. Priya drafted a short memo to the special master explaining the canary and filed it under seal. Marcus ran a slow lap of the floor, the kind of circuit that looked like stretching and was a map in his head. Amara traced the taped wing with her thumb and shaded a small gray square in the margin. A door. Practice at 9, Emma said from the hall. Shin guards clacking in a gym bag. Coach says we're scrimmaging 5th graders. They talk mean. Some people never outgrow 5th grade, Foster said without looking up. Beat them anyway. David walked Amara down to the park above the river. It smelled like chain link and damp grass. Sprinklers had stitched dark arcs into the turf. Kids in bright pinnies pecked at cones like birds. Emma tied her cleats too tight and smiled anyway. Across the street, a black sedan idled under a plane tree, windows a polite mirror. Marcus, 2 benches down, pretended to read a week-old magazine and noticed it. Noticed them. He lifted his phone to no one and said nothing like a man who belonged to every angle. The sedan eased off, embarrassed by its own persistence. The whistle blew. 5th graders shrieked insults with helium bravado. Amara watched bodies find shape against pressure and filed the idea somewhere language goes when it needs company. Back upstairs, the trap sang. Priya's inbox pinged with an e-filed revised draft from opposing counsel. She printed the PDF, warm paper sliding into her palm. Section 48. She said, eyes flat, to keep from too much satisfaction. David read standing. There it was, 48 by pointing to 49ec. A ghost. The footnote, asterisk, mutatis times, with the limp, single times, T asterisk. He handed the pages back like evidence to a clerk. Chain it. Priya slid the print into a clear bag and wrote the filing number. Time, and her initials across the tamper tape with neat aggression. Will compel the native at the hearing, she said. If the zero-width joiner is there, we have our mirror. If not, we have an even bigger problem. Partners at 11, David said. Bring your calm. The conference room ran on glass and self-regard. Carter arrived with a tie too red and a pen heavy enough to be insecure. Sullivan took his chair like the leather knew him. Bryce hovered near the wall, a man trying to look like a fire extinguisher. David set the defense PDF in the center of the table and slid it toward Carter with one finger. Section 48, he said. How did our typo walk into their filing? Carter laughed the way a throat laughs when dry. Coincidence, he said. Latin tags aren't proprietary. Not the Latin, Foster said, stacking the internal draft on top. The misnumber, the cross-reference to a clause that doesn't exist, and the zero-width joiner in Times Quarterly asterisk. She flipped to code view on her screen and pointed at the tiny asterisk asterisk ZWJ asterisk asterisk box, that shy digit that outed thieves. We seed, David said. It bloomed. Show me your phone. Carter pushed back hard enough that his chair complained. You're not internal affairs, he said. If you have a motion, file it. Otherwise, this is libel. The door opened without a knock. The monitor stepped in with a deputy clerk behind her, both carrying the smell of signed paper. Order, she said, passing the sheet to Carter. Devices. Now, he read the top line. paled at the seal, and stalled in place. "Outrageous," he muttered. "What's outrageous is my rate," the monitor said, holding out an evidence bag. "This is due process." Carter set his phone in the bag like a man surrendering a tooth. The clerk read the passcode aloud from the sealed envelope, and the monitor's assistant mirrored the device onto an antistatic mat. On the screen, a Themis stamp. T 29A M asterisk asterisk. Email to opposing counsel with an attachment. The hash string scrolled. It matched the defense filing, a text 2 minutes later to a UK number. Asterisk. Send clean. Use guardrails. Chain intact. The assistant said. Sullivan stared at the grain of the table as if it had started spelling his name. Bryce's relief flashed, then rearranged itself into guilt for feeling it. Yusuf appeared in the doorway with counsel, hat in his hands, posture of a man entering church on the day he might actually believe. He offered a printout small transfer from Times Hajar Times to asterisk asterisk Maha asterisk asterisk, with Times consulting Times in the memo and a date that lined up with everything that heard. "I didn't authorize this," he said. "I will say so where it matters." "Thank you," David said, and meant it more than the words aloud. He nodded toward the hall. "We'll walk you to the master to log that." Carter tried to find hauteur and discovered gravity instead. "You'll lose this in committee," he said to David. A last flick of tail before water. "You're not built for blood. I'm built for paper," David said. "Paper draws blood fine." The monitor took Carter's second phone and his laptop with the quiet efficiency of a person who has run out of patience for clever men with cables. "Contempt, hearing at 5, she said, almost cheerful. "Bring a sweater." They handed the defense PDF and Carter's email printout to the special master-like organs headed to a necessary transplant. She stamped, logged, and hashed the laptop screen, filling with alphanumeric static that felt, to anyone who loved rules, like prayer. Lunch arrived in foil trays that sweated. Emma drifted back in smelling like grass and joy, shin guards askew. She fed napkin bits to a suffering office plant and announced, "Coach says when you're tired, keep your shape. Make the ball come to you." Coach could run federal practice, Priya said, stealing a forkful of Emma's rice. A notification slid across Priya's screen. Asterisk, asterisk, defense. Filed, supplement. Asterisk, asterisk. She opened it, read, and let out a quiet whistle. "They're calling 48 and Times industry template asterisk, and Carter a liaison for efficiency." In quote, "Efficiency is an underrated felony," Foster said. At 4, the judge set a new calendar entry. Asterisk, asterisk. Order to show cause, unauthorized, filing, asterisk, asterisk. The room exhaled like a tire, finding a nail, and deciding the road was worth it anyway. They walked the long corridor to the elevator. Amara trailed a step behind, running her finger along the cool metal rail until her skin left a faint, fogged oval. In it, she drew a single gray dot with her nail and watched it vanish. Downstairs, air tasted of toner and citrus. A deputy from the DA's office shook David's hand. 3 pumps. "No flourishes. If your canary sings, we'll bring charges for the song," he said. He glanced at Amara and softened. "Quiet wins are still wins." They cut across the plaza toward the curb. Heat lifted off the stone in visible exhale. A different black sedan rolled to the corner and paused, just a fraction too long. The passenger window slipped down. Cool air, a voice smooth as new glass. "Mr. Harrison." A word. Marcus stepped into the gap without touching the car. Hand up. Smile. Polite and carnivorous. Not tonight, he said. The window rose. The sedan drifted away, offended on principle. Back in the war room, late light went brass. Priya printed the joiner screenshot again and slid it into a section labeled **48BI** that had become a running joke and a guillotine. The monitor texted a photo of a printer tray, stuffed with invoices from Times Remal **, font sins identical to Times Hajar's **. The special master's hash receipt arrived with digits that looked like a secret alphabet. The moth on the window seam inched 6 panes over and stopped as if punctuation had decided to change the sentence. 5 o'clock. David said, "We don't swing. We let paper do it." The courtroom wore end-of-day fatigue ties loosened, fluorescence steady. The special master projected the internal code view of Times Quarterly **, the **, ZWJ **, box, glowing like a smoking gun that had the manners to whisper. Defense counsel tried the word Times coincidence times, and the judge let it die alone on the record. The order for device surrender snapped into place with a small, irreversible gavel tap. Carter's name met Times referral times and didn't like how it looked. They came out to early evening. Reporters pressed and then remembered the protective order like a leash. Yusuf lingered half a staircase down and nodded once, not gratitude, not resignation, recognition. At the apartment, the thermostat hummed itself trustworthy. Beans again. Lemon oil on the table. Cap off. Bright rind cutting through legal air. Keisha read her appeal rights and set them under a coaster as if weight could make reason. Emma practiced footwork in the hallway. The thuds counted by the building like heartbeat. Amara sat at the table. She wrote the time the canary sang, the filing number, the code for the invisible joiner. She drew the 4 dots at the bottom of the page red, blue, green, gray, and touched the gray last. It didn't feel like warning. It felt like price paid in exact bills. On the glass, the moth held to the seam between pane and frame, choosing shadow over the courthouse lamp's lie. Priya closed the evidence cabinet. The latch clicked like a small vow. Marcus turned the chain on the front door with the faith of a man who believes in hardware. David leaned his head back and let the day leave his face before saying, "To no one and everyone, tomorrow." They echoed it because echoing is how a team becomes stubborn. The room settled into hum. Fridge cough. Printer tick. Neighbor's chair scrape. Amara palmed the taped wing, felt the last heat it had stolen from the lamp, and didn't move until it cooled. Outside, the lamp drew its constellation of bugs. Inside, the dots on the page shone only in memory. The canary slept somewhere in code. Nobody could see with eyes. Quiet wasn't absence. It was the shape they kept. Morning flattened the plaza to brass. The courthouse doors breathed conditioned air that smelled faintly of toner and old stone. On the docket board, the rubber-stamped block read, ***, status monitorship, witness, bank, notice ***, 3 lines, enough to bend a week. They took the second row, the place where you can see everything and still feel small. Priya set the binder on her knees. New tabs sprouted overnight. Asterisk, asterisk, rails, asterisk, 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 structuring asterisk, asterisk. Door chems. David rested both palms on the table. A carpenter feeling for wobble. Kesha laced her fingers so tight, the knuckles blanched. Amara balanced her notebook and found the taped wing with her thumb. The paper kept a thin bar of cold light and didn't let go. The special master slid into her spot by the rail. Laptop open. External drive. cabled like a heart-lung machine. The monitor wheeled in a pelican case and parked it with a sympathetic thud. A deputy district attorney took a backbench seat and started eating the room with his eyes. When the judge entered, the room changed temperature by 2 degrees. "We're here on 3, she said. "Monitor's status, witness protection, and a notice from the bank pursuant to yesterday's order." She looked to her clerk. "Money first." A letter on heavy paper crossed the bench. She read, let one eyebrow concede amusement, then looked up. "Counsel, your client attempted to move funds at 3:12 this morning. 4 transfers of $49,990. Memo line. Keep under the radar. This is called structuring. It is not clever." Opposing counsel's smile had been sanded to neutral. It chipped. Those were payroll consolidations. "Your Honor, in the middle of the night, in 4 equal parts under reporting threshold," she said, dry as limestone. "Monitor." The monitor stood, sleeves rolled. "2 new shells at 1:30, she said. Asterisk. Palm times and times Shamal asterisk. Same font sin, same P.O. box. The bank froze all 4 transfers under the carotid clause. "We have hold notices with timestamps. Passports," the judge said, already writing. "Surrender to the clerk by noon. Attempt to leave jurisdiction, and you will enjoy a new kind of room." She nodded to the DA. "Coordinate on charging." Opposing counsel tried to find words and found only verbs that wouldn't help him. He sat. The judge's gaze found the last row. "Mr. Yusuf," she said, "are you here to testify or to watch?" Yusuf stood, hat in his hands, counsel at his elbow. "To testify," he said. His English carried salt and something like apology that wasn't for himself. "Loud if you want, sealed if you must." "Loud," she said. "We'll seal what the internet might weaponize." He came forward. The mic turned his breath into a portable thing. "He told us to run the paper while it sleeps," he said. "He said the judge is noise. He said the girl is noise. Move money through times, Anka times first. Then these new names, before your bank wakes." He breathed once. A steadying draw. The bank woke. David didn't move much when the kill line was close. "Why now?" he asked. Yusuf flicked his eyes toward Amara and away. "Because last time I stayed small and Holmes did not happen," he said. "Because of her. Protections." The judge told the monitor. "You'll coordinate with the DA, Mrs. Williams, and the child as well. We are not going to outsource retaliation to HR policy." She turned to the special master. "Door cameras." The master stood. The projector hummed. The wall became a screen. A gray security office appeared. Fluorescent truth, making everything look guilty. On audio, fan hiss and nylon shuffle. A supervisor leaned on a desk and spoke like someone ordering bad coffee. "Tenant committee is at 6. Keep doors under maintenance until 7. If anyone pushes, water main. If the woman from 3B shows, you didn't understand her. Not our language." The room made a sound low, tight. "Not outrage, recognition." "Admitted," the judge said. Forward to the city attorney and the inspector general, she shifted tone without warning, and to any official within earshot, words in quiet rooms become public architecture. Opposing counsel rose like a man lifting a stone he'd put down himself. "My client employs hundreds. Then he should stop behaving like demolition," she said. "Interim injunction remains." Successors swept in. "We reconvene Monday on charging and affiliates." Gavel. The sound was small and permanent. They spilled into the corridor, wool and citrus air. Microphones orbiting at a court-ordered distance. The DA met David at the stairwell, with a handshake workmanlike. 3 pumps. "We'll draft structuring and tampering," he said. Conspiracy if the rails keep singing. His eyes found Amara, softened for half a second. Quiet winds are still wind. They didn't linger. Down 3 floors to the Housing Authority, records room cinder block, antistatic mats, dust like old paper settling into hair. Security's chief, a woman with close-cropped hair and a badge she wore like spine. Read the order and push the console across the desk. We'll need a login, she said. Me, Alvarez said from the doorway, name stitched crooked over a uniform that made him look like a kid in a play. He slid into the chair, typed the password. It's the supervisor's first name, he said, rolling his eyes at a system that trusted too easily. They pulled the site incident recording to Worm Media, the drive swallowing frames with patient appetite. Near it in the log, a neat line, door cam maint 17, 59, 18, 54. Okay, asterisk, asterisk. Too tidy. The special master smiled with only one side of her mouth. We'll take the raw, she said. Maintenance can keep its rubber stamps. Priya read the hash into the chain sheet, her handwriting square and certain. Time, she said. Seals. The labels went on straight. It was wholly in its way. Upstairs, an email landed in Kesha's inbox with the heatless perfection of machine mail. Asterisk, asterisk, termination for policy non-compliance. Benefits through end of month. Appeal rights attached. Asterisk, asterisk. No adjectives. Not even a comma to rest on. She read, folded the paper with hospital corners, and set it under Priya's binder. Like a bad photograph you won't throw away. They did it safe, she said, voice even, end of month, no scandal. Process, we appeal. David said, we will. Kesha said, but not right now. I'll carry the thing first. Amara slid the notebook toward her and opened to the taped wing. Under the mottled gray, the inked line asterisk asterisk. Knowledge is light asterisk. Asterisk had bled and settled. Kesha pressed 2 fingers to the paper like a blessing and left no mark. Back on the 6th floor, the monitor unpacked a printer's diet. Rimal invoices identical to Hajar's. Kerning, giving them away like a tell. Font snitch, she said, pleased. Add successors and aliases to the order, Foster said, drafting an expansion with a pen that wrote like a threat, and a live alert. Every transfer attempt pings the court. Let them hear their money scream. The judge signed it without drama. The clerk's stamp thudded. The order left the building faster than sound. Outside, noon thinned the shadows. Omar came through the doors, flanked by an assistant, and the kind of calm men wear when they can't feel their feet. He glanced at the steps, the sky. The marshal posted with the patience of weather. Passport, she said. He hesitated the length of a misplaced comma and handed it over. Hubris is a terrible travel agent, Foster murmured. They crossed under the courthouse lamp's pale circle toward the curb. The river wore tin. A cruiser idled across the street with its lights dark. Just another car that knew law. A different sedan eased out from behind a pillar and matched their pace. Slow, like a big cat pretending furniture. The passenger window slid down an inch. Cool air. A voice with new glass edges. Mr. Harrison. A word. Marcus stepped into the space. Body. A hinge closing quietly. Not today, he said. Behind the sedan, the cruiser blinked red-blue, once no siren. Just the color that changes physics. 2 officers approached without hurry. License and registration, one said. The driver cap low. 2 fingers dotted with ink. Considered discretion and chose pride. He cut the wheel right to slip the corner. He misjudged the curb. It wasn't cinematic. It was a blunt thunk, rubber sighing. Pride losing air. Palms on the hood. Door opened. The small choreography of men who have decided against escalation. On the seat, a rubber band roll of cash. Under the mat, a thumb drive, taped with cheap care. The officer set both on the cruiser roof and photographed before bagging. He didn't need Priya to tell him the script. He lived here. Sir, you're being detained on suspicion of tampering with a witness, the officer said, reading the rights like sheet music. Across the plaza, Omar stopped. The face he had ironed into calm wrinkled in one place, as if a math problem had just confessed a joke. The marshal moved half a step. Back inside, she said, not unkind. He went. They turned from spectacle, because work mattered more. Priya texted the plate to the monitor. Asterisk, asterisk, logged, asterisk, asterisk. Came back. The DA took a quick look at the bagged drive and nodded like a man who saw trees fall in a forest all day. David called the city attorney and said times escalation, times once. Precisely. Afternoon slid. The special master sent a hash digest that looked like a secret alphabet. The monitor emailed a list of new entities with names like wind and sand. The bank acknowledged receipt of the expanded order with a sentence that sounded like relief. The building hummed like a refrigerator that believes in its job. By dusk, they were back in the apartment whose lease was measured in testimony. The thermostat purred at a number someone else had set. Beans and rice steamed on the table. Lemon oil sat uncapped, bright rind cutting through the day's legal air. Kesha's termination letter lived under a coaster. Emma practiced penalty kicks in the hallway. Thuds counted by drywall. Breath counted by joy. Charges? Emma asked from the doorway. Cheeks pink. Soon, Priya said. Paper needs to learn its lines. People too. Kesha propped her chin on her hands and looked at the little city outside their window. I am tired of being brave, she said. It wasn't a complaint. It was inventory. You can set it down, David said. She nodded. After Monday, she said, and smiled without showing teeth. Amara drew the day in shorthand. San, 12 a.m. Structuring. Noon passport. Dorcams raw. Driver detained. Asterisk, asterisk. She added 4 dots under the wing red. Blue, green, gray, and pressed the gray until the paper warmed. It didn't feel like warning anymore. It felt like the receipt for a price paid exactly. On the glass, the courthouse lamp caught its anxious galaxy of bugs, white specks circling a promise it never kept. The moth on their side chose the seam between pane and frame again, shadow over glow. Marcus slid the chain at the door. The metal whispered certainty. Priya clicked the evidence cabinet shut. The lock took it personally. David leaned back and let his face forget. He owned a jaw. Tomorrow, Emma asked, already knowing the answer. Tomorrow, they said. A word turned into a tool. The room settled into hum, fridge, cough. Print a tick. Upstairs. Chair. Scrape. Amara pressed her forehead to the cold pane, fogging a small oval she could write in. With the edge of her nail, she drew a single gray dot and watched it evaporate. The taped wing caught the last shard of streetlight and held it a beat too long, as if learning how. Outside, a bus sighed and leaned. Somewhere, a door shut with carpeted courtesy. Inside, quiet performed its trick, not absence, but shape. They had kept one thing from moving long enough to prove it could be done. The rest would cost more. The gray dot knew the number now. It didn't argue. Sunday came up slow and paper thin. The community center smelled like bleach and cheap coffee. Metal folding chairs, scraping concrete in small apologies. A moth kept throwing itself against the high window, powder dusting the glass like chalk. Amara set her notebook on a card table by the door and smoothed the taped wing with her palm. 4 dots in the corner read, blue, green, gray weighted like buttons she didn't push unless she had to. She tucked a stack of blank affidavits beneath the clip and looked up as the room filled with people who weren't supposed to have time for meetings. Mrs. Gomez arrived first, rain bonnet folded and tucked into a purse that had survived years. Mr. Ahmed from the 6th floor brought a plastic grocery bag stuffed with rent receipts. The Gonzalez kids trailed a paper banner from last semester's carnival. A nurse in scrubs leaned against the wall, name badge turned backward to make privacy on a lanyard. Sign-in table, Priya called, already building order. Out of noise. She'd commandeered 2 card tables and a box of clear evidence. Sleeves, notary stamp parked like a small moon. 1 line for statements. 1 for uploads photos. Texts. Anything with a timestamp. Will hash on in jest. Yes, that's a real sentence. The room made the sound crowds make when hope shows up disguised as paperwork. Marcus stood at the back, easy posture, eyes that measured doors. David rolled his sleeves and went chair by chair with a stapler, turning wobbly into rows. Kesha arrived carrying a baking tray under foil. The lemon oil had worked itself into her shirt cuffs. She smelled like wood, held together. She set the tray on a table and lifted the foil to reveal cornbread cut in squares too neat for accidents. Eat first, she said. Then we tell the truth. Interpreter stations, Priya said, pointing to handwritten signs on the walls. Asterisk, asterisk, Arabic asterisk, 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 Spanish, asterisk, 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 Somali, asterisk, 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 Korean asterisk, asterisk. Amara took asterisk, asterisk, Arabic, asterisk, asterisk, and asterisk, asterisk. Somali asterisk, asterisk, because that's where she belonged, and because nobody needed to ask. She stood under the paper and lifted her chin the way people do who refuse to apologize for their skill. The first story came out in a whisper. A grandmother from 2D held up a photo on a cracked phone, her son at the tenant committee door, a security sign reading asterisk, asterisk, maintenance, asterisk, asterisk, taped over the handle, the timestamp, a neat digital scold. Amara translated sentence by sentence, keeping the mother's rhythm, translating verbs like, she was measuring flour. Priya took the phone, slid it into a Faraday sleeve, wrote the time down twice. Chain of custody in a room with a basketball hoop. A boy in a school hoodie stepped forward with a flyer he'd pulled off the lobby wall. A community partner announcing a free pizza night that had never happened. He'd circled the sponsor logo in red pen. Something learned in homeroom. It was the night they needed a quorum, he said, voice cracking. They took the pizza to the other side. Evidence, Priya said, and bagged the lie with a tenderness that felt like anger dressed for church. They worked like that for an hour. A timeline grew on butcher paper, taped to the cinderblock wall door cams. Flyers, phone calls that started with times, we're here to help. Times, and ended with times. Sign here, asterisk. Amara bounced between tables, her ear catching dialect, her mouth making it American in a way that didn't sand off edges. At the coffee urn, a man with a portfolio waited too patiently. He wore jeans that cost more than they admitted, and a smile honed on reflective glass. Community liaison, he told Marcus without being asked. I help build bridges. Bring a hard hat, Marcus said, and didn't move. The liaison drifted to the back row. opened his portfolio, and slid small envelopes toward two block captains who had been loud in other rooms. His hands stayed low. Wrists turned, practiced. Amara saw the glint of bank logo through thin paper. She didn't look at Priya. She didn't say anything at all. She pulled her phone, toggled the camera, and touched record. The lens didn't blink. The liaison's hand did the rest. When he looked up, he saw a child with a phone and smiled like that. Made him safe. "You want another bridge," he said to the captains. "This is how you cross. Don't touch that." One said, soft, as if talking to her own hand. They didn't. Amara stopped recording, slid her phone into Priya's waiting bag, watched the seal mouth close. The notary stamp made its soft, decisive kiss. The liaison's smile lost its training wheels. David took the portable mic. The city lent the center and tapped it twice, not for sound, for focus. "You've been told this is inevitable," he said, voice low, cadence that didn't crave applause. "You've been told the English means one thing when a second language hides another. You've been told the meeting was cancelled because of a water main. Today we build a record you can't throw away." He held up the timeline pinned to the wall. "This is how a city tells the truth," he said. "Boring. Exact. Dated. Signed." A few people laughed, the good kind, because it felt like relief to have someone say boring with affection. Kesha stepped beside him without a microphone. "I lost my job this week," she said. Calm. They did it polite. End of month. Like mercy. It wasn't. It was a message. This, she lifted the butcher paper with her fingers, is louder. This is our message back. Applause. Rose and stopped. No one wanted to bruise the air with too much hope. A child somewhere kicked a ball that escaped and bumped a chair leg. The sound was normal, which felt radical. Priya's phone buzzed against her clipboard. She checked the screen, eyebrows rising a knot. "Monitors at the vault," she said under her breath to David. They found a sneaker net cache. Stack of printed Arabic clauses in a manila envelope marked clean. "Some font sins." Same ghost punctuation. "This is a hobby for them." "Duh," David asked. "Looped," she said. "Judge has a Sunday inbox." Didn't know that until today. The liaison by the back row pretended to check a text he didn't have, and pretended to yawn his way to the door. Marcus met him there, the kind of politeness that changes plan. "Stay," Marcus said. "I'm a guest." The man replied, "Your evidence," Marcus said, and the word didn't need volume. Outside, the sky couldn't decide on weather. Inside, language worked the way it's supposed to, lifting weight from one person and putting it where it could be carried. Miss Ayad arrived with a plastic tote of pencils and vocabulary sheets. Her idea of cookies. She took the Arabic table. When Amara moved to Somali the handoff seamless in a way that felt more powerful than any speech. In a corner, Bryce hunched over a laptop, fingers moving like someone paying back a debt. "I cross-referenced the board minutes with the donation ledgers," he muttered to Priya. The community partner letters were printed on the same printer as internal memos. The toner leaves a dot pattern. It's like fingerprints for paper. I can testify to that without crying. He tried a smile. It wobbled. He kept typing. A knock at the back door sounded like something civil, not police. The special master's assistant poked her head in, clipboard already winning. "Judge issued a Sunday order," she said, breathless and pleased. "Emergency preservation at the developer's satellite office. We're taking custody of anything printed and pretending to be innocent." She added language about canary markers. Couldn't help herself. "Bless her," Priya said. "Bless her clerk." The assistant replied, "And bless your zero-width joiner." Never thought I'd hear that in a gym, Foster said from a folding chair, eyes up from a draft long enough to enjoy the line. Be late afternoon. The butcher paper had turned into a map that would make sense to a stranger. The liaison had stopped smiling. The captains had returned the envelopes and signed statements admitting the offer, fingers shaking in a way that made the signatures truer. The nurse in scrubs recorded a voicemail she'd gotten from a stakeholder telling her to think about her kids before speaking at the board. When the final beep hit, she looked lighter and more tired at the same time. Quiet beat, David murmured, and they let the room find one. Coffee gurgled. A basketball thudded distant. Sun came through the high windows and found dust willing to float in it. Emma showed up sweaty from practice, shin guards askew, soccer ball under her arm like a credential. She slid onto the stage edge beside Amara and leaned their shoulders together. Coach says, "We keep our shape when we're tired," she said. "Don't chase the ball. Make it come to you." Amara nodded like someone agreeing with scripture. She didn't say she'd written the same sentence in her notebook 2 nights ago. She didn't need to. Emma looked up at the high window. "Your moth is back," she said. "It likes the seam," Amara said. "Smart." Toward evening, the liaison tried again. "You're hurting your own neighborhood," he said, voice pitched to reason. "This deal brings parks, clinics, jobs." "Then write it in English and Arabic the same," Kesha said without turning. "Write it in Spanish and Somali. 2. Put your park where you promised. Don't build a wall around it and call it a clinic." The man flinched, like the words had mastered velocity. He left. At the door, the special master's assistant returned, cheeks red with the weather and a win. "We got the box," she said to Priya. "Printer trays still warm." Somebody was feeding paper to the shredder and stopped for lunch. "We'll have a digest in the morning." "Monday," David said, and breathed it like a plan, not a threat. A pastor from around the corner asked for the mic and didn't preach. He read 3 letters into the record, one from a tenant, one from a teacher, one from a kid who wanted a bedroom that wasn't the kitchen. He put the papers down and nodded to Amara and Kesha, like they'd given him permission to be brief. At wrap, Priya collected forms with a care that made paper feel heavy. She sealed a stack in a bag and wrote the time across the tape. "If anyone tries to make this disappear," she said to the room, "we'll make it appear in front of a judge. That's not a threat. It's a service we provide." Laughter. Tired and grateful, people started picking up chairs without being told. The center found its evening face, echoes softer, light honeyed by dust. Amara stepped outside to the small strip of concrete by the dumpsters and looked up. The moth had abandoned the window and found the goal net, white squares catching it like a constellation. It clung there, wings still, a world a little less slick for its insistence. Footsteps behind her, then the quiet presence she recognized. Yusuf stood with his hat in both hands, the brim turning under his fingers like a confession he hadn't decided to make. "I told my wife," he said, not looking at her. "She said I was a fool." Then she packed a bag and put it by the door for times in case times and made dinner. "That is marriage." Amara didn't know what to say to that in any language. She nodded. She said the girl will be fine. He added, eyes still on the goal. She said the men will not. "What do you think?" Amara asked. He considered. "I think light is tiring," he said, "but it does not tire the way lies do." They stood until the moth lifted and moved, a small gray insistence choosing another square of net. A siren curled somewhere blocks away and uncurled again. Inside, Kesha stacked the last chairs. Priya labeled the last bag. Marcus checked the back door twice, and then once more because rituals become armor. David took a photo of the timeline on the butcher paper and sent it to 3 people who needed to see it before morning. When they stepped into the street, evening had cooled enough to make breath visible. The city had its Sunday sound quieter, like a machine idling, waiting to be asked for work again. Amara pressed her palm to the notebook through her coat, feeling for the taped wing, confirming it was still there. Tomorrow, David said, tomorrow. Que shai chode. No tremor, no bravado. Amara didn't say the word. She looked at the goal net, the square where the moth had been, and then up at the courthouse lamp beyond the roofs, its halo pulling a ring of bugs that didn't know anything about court. The gray dot in her notebook had a new job now. It felt less like price and more like inheritance. A mark you carry so the next kid doesn't have to grab. They walked toward the bus stop, the plastic shelter humming with the day's stored heat. Across the street, a sedan idled too long and then decided to leave. The bus sighed up to the curb and knelt. They climbed aboard, paper and people in tote bags, and took seats near the front where you can see the driver's hands and the road. As the bus pulled away, Amara took out her pencil and drew a tiny wing in the fog of her window, pressed the graphite into the shape until it was almost a hole, then breathed once and watched it fade. The taped wing in her lap caught a seam of streetlight and held it one heartbeat longer than it should. The city rolled. The night didn't argue. Monday waited without apology. Monday rose clean and clinical, like a sheet pulled tight over a hospital bed. The plaza held the chill and gave back a faint smell of wet stone and diesel. Inside, the courthouse breathed its weekday lungs. Fluorescence steady, security trays clacking. The coffee from the basement kiosk burned to a bitter gloss. They took their row without ceremony. Priya slid the chain of custody binder onto her knees, new tabs sprouting like flags. Asterisk, asterisk, bank. Notice, asterisk, asterisk. Door cams, liaison bribes. David set both palms on the table, fingers flattened as if feeling for a current under wood. Kesha folded her hands in her lap and let the lemon oil in her cuffs steady her. Amara placed the notebook on her thighs, tape smooth under her right thumb. The 4 dots in the corner quiet as held breath. The judge entered in a sweep that adjusted the room's temperature. We're here on status, preservation, and the carotid clause to the bank, she said, voice plain as law. Monitor. The monitor stood with her wheeled case and a face like a turned wrench. Affiliates froze at 0900, she said. Attempts to move funds at 0902. 4 transfers in 49,990 increments, flagged by the bank at 0312 overnight. We traced 2 new shells, times Palm times and times Shamal times, created during the injunction window, standard font sins, identical kerning, same ghost punctuation. The clerk handed up a letter on heavy paper. The judge read, mouth flicking once in dry amusement. Counsel, she said to the defense table. Your client wrote, times keep under the radar. Times in the memo line. He broke the speed limit in a golf cart and waved at a police cruiser. She turned to the deputy district attorney seated 2 rows back. Mr. Alvarez. The deputy DA rose. We filed a notice of suspected structuring and tampering, he said. We request the court order surrender of passports, restrict travel to this district, and authorize the monitor to audit any successor entity by any name that smells like sand, wind, or gemstones. Surrender passports by noon. The judge ordered, writing as she spoke, travel restricted. Any violation, we will remand. And since defendants enjoy euphemism, let me be clear. If you try to walk money through a different door, we'll meet you there. Omar sat perfectly still. That stillness had cost him. The hinge of his jaw twitched once, then learned obedience. Yusuf's hat lay on the seat beside him, hands empty, eyes ahead, not defiant, not collapsed, something in between. Next, the judge said, Special Master, on the liaison incident and door cameras. The projector whirred. Grainy footage filled the screen of Jim's back row. A man in expensive denim, envelopes sliding like minnows. Priya stood just long enough to lay foundation. Timestamp. Hash. Faraday. Notary. The special master narrated without juice. We logged the exchange and sealed the device. The internal door cams at the authority were labeled maintenance for the entire hour. Raw clips contradict. The public was kept out. The judge watched the liaison's hand do its little practice turn. Forward this to the Inspector General, she said, and to anyone who says, this city doesn't believe what it sees with its own eyes. She set the pen down, then picked it back up. Now the contract. David rose, sleeves cuffed, voice calm. We ask the court to convert the interim injunction into a preliminary one. Mirror the English. Strike timed transfer. Strike the 200 million penalty. Appoint the monitor over affiliates and successors. Retain jurisdiction over community representations, including those made in languages other than English. Opposing counsel started to say times, industry standard times, and found his mouth full of silence. He pivoted to times, jobs, times, and times, parks times, and realized the room had stopped buying nouns without receipts. Granted, the judge said, the gavel sound was soft, built to last, and for the record, a park you can only see through a fence is not a park. Put that in your next draft. Kesha exhaled through her nose, a sound so small. It felt like a private agreement with gravity. Amara didn't move. She kept one finger on the tape's edge to feel the room land. And witnesses, the judge added, eyes moving from Kesha to Amara to Yusuf, without turning them into spectacle. Protective order remains. Any whisper near them not wearing a bar. Number gets teeth. She looked at the deputy DA. Your office will coordinate with the monitor on relocation or other safeguards as needed. The calendar ticked forward. The courtroom shuffled new cases into the same air. Outside in the corridor, the building's citrus and wool smell returned like weather. Reporters hovered along the protective order's polite perimeter. David gave them a docket number and 12 words. Priya gave them the sentence in the order that mattered, and none that didn't. Marcus made a path through bodies without touching anyone. They reached the steps when a black sedan nosed around the corner, slow, angling like a thought. The driver's hand sat high on the wheel, 2 fingers dotted with tattooing. He never looked at them. He looked through them, the way men do when they think you're scenery. Marcus stepped off the curb, palm up, posture bored enough to be dangerous. A cruiser across the street flicked its lights once without song. The sedan hesitated. The driver made the wrong calculation and eased forward a foot too far, clipping the curb with a thunk that sounded like a fallen idea. License, registration, step out, the officer said, polite like a posted sign. A rubber-banded roll of cash winked from the cup holder. A thumb drive, taped under the dash with cheap gray, came off in the officer's hand with a gluey sigh. Photos first, then bag, then notes spoken out loud while he wrote them down. Priya didn't have to teach him the ritual. He'd learned the hymn long ago. Sir, you're being detained on suspicion of tampering with a witness, the officer said, and turned the driver toward a hood, now warm with sun. From the column's shade, Omar appeared. He took in the tableau, the bag, the cash, the cruiser. The crowd's bored appetite. For a heartbeat, his mask slipped, and you could see the math denial, flight, defiance, flash, and fail. He chose dignity and got escort. A marshal approached. Badge, like gravity. Passport, she said, and didn't smile. He handed it over. The leather looked small in his palm. Hubris, Foster murmured, sliding sunglasses into her hair. Always the cheapest contractor. They didn't linger. The city had taught them the trick of walking away early, back upstairs. The monitor printed a list of expansions to the audit, her pen stabbing amps into asterisk asterisk successors, asterisk 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 asterisk, aliases asterisk 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 and asterisk asterisk. Any entity beginning with wind, sand, or bird asterisk asterisk. The special master sent a digest thumb drives imaged, hashes tallied, door cam frames, aligned with butcher paper from the gym. The city attorney filed a motion that made the carotid clause sing in a new key. It was paperwork as architecture. It held by noon. The bank confirmed the freeze held clean, no money moved, no new shells launched. The liaison, suddenly shy, asked his counsel about cooperation and discovered the price. Bryce signed a sworn declaration on toner dot patterns and didn't shake. Alvarez, the guard from the video, came in on his lunch and gave a statement that undid 3 neat lies and left the room brighter by a watt you could feel. Kesha's termination appeal lived in a folder marked with her name and nothing else. It would take a week to travel through the maze. She knew the maze. She ate an apple and sharpened a pencil and set both aside on purpose. An altar to endurance. Yusuf hovered in the doorway with the posture of a man deciding to be visible. My wife packed the bag by the door, he said to Priya, voice quieter than morning. She said the noise will keep us awake. Better than sleeping underwater. He looked at Amara, quick and honest. She says the girl turned the noise on. I only translated, Amara said. She didn't shrug. The notebook sat open on the table, tape shining a little under fluorescent blessing. David read the preliminary injunction one more time for the pleasure of what it did not contain: no time transfer, no penalties dressed as remedies, no secret venue clause that could fly off to hurt them later. Paper wasn't a hero. Today it was a spine. They ate late, rice in paper bowls, coffee that forgave nothing. Emma charged in after class with scuffed knees and a grin, set her ball down under a chair, and listened with wide eyes, like the courtroom had moved into her father's office and decided to try kindness. Did we win? She asked. We stopped the worst thing in time. Priya said, that's as close as adults get. It counts. Emma said, solemn as a referee. Afternoon slid toward gold. The monitor rolled her case to the elevator with a list that could prop open a courthouse door. The special master went back to her lab to feed machines that liked to eat proof. The deputy DA walked briskly toward an office with charging documents cooling on a desk. Opposing counsel retreated to a profile he hoped would survive. On the sidewalk, the heat came off the stone like breath. The courthouse lamp would come on soon and collect its orbit of bugs. In the window of the office, the moth had found the seam again. Gray wings pressed to glass, a faint powder signature like handwriting that refused to fade. They went back to the apartment measured in witnesses. The lemon oil ghost lived in the doorframe, a clean smell on old paint. Kesha set mail on the table without opening it. Marcus checked the chain by habit and let his hand fall. The second it clicked, David sat and didn't speak for a long minute, the rare luxury of not filling air. Priya opened the binder and drew a line through asterisk asterisk interim asterisk asterisk and wrote asterisk asterisk preliminary asterisk asterisk above it. Small and neat. The way you mark a birthday on a calendar, you suspect is lying. Amara stood by the window and pressed her forehead to the glass until the cool came back. The taped wing in her notebook took the last stripe of day and held it. She breathed and fogged a small oval on the pane, then drew with her nail. Four dots: red, blue, green, gray, and watched them fade. You'll go back to school, Kesha said, voice even, watching her daughter and the city share the same pain. You'll teach me new words. I'll find a different badge. We will eat and sleep and show up. We'll file and file again. Priya added, half smile. Monsters hate clerks. Is he gone? Emma asked from the couch. Chin on soccer ball. For now, he's contained, David said. Contained is the shape of justice most days. Coach says keep shape, Emma said. Satisfied. Night pressed gently at the glass. Across the street, the lamp lit and drew its small galaxy of moths and gnats. On their side of the pane, one moth chose the seam and stayed, powder like a chalk mark you make on a door. You mean to come back to? Amara peeled the tape's corner up a millimeter, just enough to feel the tack give, and pressed it back down with 2 fingers, sealing the wing again. Provenance, she whispered, testing the word in an empty room. Where it begins, where it's held, where it goes next. No speeches. No trumpets. The printer ticked as it cooled. The fridge coughed and apologized. Somewhere down the hall, a neighbor laughed and then said, Times, shh, times without believing in silence. The city hummed its low, mechanical hymn, the sound you learned to live inside. They had kept one door from closing on hundreds of others. The price would keep arriving. The gray dot understood that now, not warning, not omen. A ledger entry written small and honest in the corner of a page that would outlast them. Amara set the notebook flat on the table. The taped wing kept a thin, stubborn sheen even with the lamp off. She touched the edge and, for a second, felt the moths whisper through the glass as if the seam itself breathed back. Then she lifted her hand, let darkness do its work, and listened to the machine of the city settle around them. Not at peace, never at peace, but held just enough for morning to have something to stand on. Every story worth remembering leaves us with a quiet truth, and this one is no different. At its heart, it is a reminder that dignity and justice rarely arrive wrapped in authority or wealth. More often, they are carried by those the world overlooks: children, workers, neighbors, people who learn early that silence in the face of cruelty or corruption is its own kind of harm. There's a saying, asterisk. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, asterisk, but in real life, the brave voice often risks being ignored, mocked, or punished. Still, as this story shows, speaking up even from a position of weakness can unravel lies that seem unshakable. For many of us, the struggle is not against half-billion-dollar frauds, but against Keter injustice, the boss who dismisses our worth, the family member who belittles, the system that looks past us because of class, race, or age. The lesson here is clear. Your value is not decided by those who underestimate you. Asterisk. Gold doesn't fear the fire. Asterisk. And neither should truth. It endures. What matters is not being the loudest in the room, but refusing to let others define your silence. So I leave you with this. In your own life, where do you feel unseen? What truth sits on your tongue, waiting for air? Share your reflections below. Or tell us about a time when you broke the silence and found your strength. If this story stirred something in you, tap the like button to help it reach others. And subscribe if you'd like more stories that challenge, inspire, and linger long after the screen goes dark. Until next time, may you carry courage quietly, speak when it matters, and find peace in knowing that even the smallest voice can change the course of things.